Welcome into the D2 Baseball Podcast. Robert Frey here, ready to talk and preview all 8 regions in the regional preview as we begin the postseason starting Thursday. Really excited for it. Can't wait. So to begin our preview, we'll preview the Atlantic region, and we'll go through all 8 regions. Have some special guests on for some, so be ready for that as well. So without further ado, we will preview the Atlantic region. The Atlantic region bracket 1. The 2 hosts are Westchester and Millersville. It goes 1 through 6. Westchester 1, Millersville 2, Seton Hill 3, East Stroudsburg 4, Bloomsburg 5, and Charleston alone MEC representative at seed number 6. So we'll talk about the 3 teams in the Atlantic 1 regional, hosted by Westchester. As you can see there, Westchester hosts East Stroudsburg and Bloomsburg. So we'll start with Westchester, the host. They went 39-10, 21-7 in the PSAC East. They were co-champions with East Stroudsburg in the PSAC East, and they lost in the tournament championship game 2-1 to Millersville, as this is their 21st overall appearance, their 4th consecutive appearance, and they've made 5 World Series appearances, 2006, 2009, 2012, and 2017. For both of those years, they were national champions in 2022. So they're looking to go back for the first time since 2022 as the host, and we'll talk a little bit about their offense. Starts with Hunter Smith at the top. He has 16 doubles, 368 average, 118 OPS, and he's got a 646 slugging percentage as well. And then you have Caleb Strawhecker, 12 doubles, 8 home runs, 35 driven in, and Austin Stalker, 10 home runs, 51 driven in for their offense. But pitching obviously relies on a guy by the name of Julian Costa, who is the PSAC Eastern Division Pitcher of the Year, with his success on the mound, as he has a 2.66 ERA, 10-2 record, 71 innings, just 16 walks, and he has 4 complete games. So, guy they'll rely on heavily. But then they have a good number 2 guy in Kyle Laser, 3.35 ERA, 6-1, over 53 and 2/3 innings as well. And then some pretty good back end bullpen guys, especially in the saves department. You got Landon Rosich, who has 3 saves with a 1.93 ERA. Nick Cuhino, who has a 2.19 ERA over 12 innings. And then the other big saves guy, Ben Jones. So that's Westchester as the 1 seed, and the 2 teams they'll take on is, or potentially take on, is East Stroudsburg, again, the co-champions of the PSAC East. With their success there, John Kamansky winning Coach of the Year, Xander Candelas, the Freshman of the Year in the PSAC East Division. And again, this is their 9th overall tournament appearance. And while they had quite a run last year, they ran through that regional last year, though most of it was at the University of Delaware due to weather constraints and field constraints. But East Stroudsburg, 4 seeds, sitting pretty, 20-7 in the PSAC East, 36-14 overall. Again, that 1 World Series appearance last year, and they returned a lot of their pitching, and a lot of it did great. Ryan DeWeese, 2.7 ERA, 7-2 record. He did great, as he was on the first team for all PSAC East. Ethan Woods, 5-3 with a 3.51 ERA. Evan Hughes, 7-2 with a 3.6 ERA. So this is going to be a team that, once again, is no shortage of arms in the back end, in the rotation and the back end of the bullpen. Some of the guys you remember from last year, Johan Sobrito, Peyton Brannock, not quite having the years that you would think they would have. But nonetheless, you still have a guy like Cole Dymack, who's got 5 saves and a 1.33 ERA in 27 innings. And then the offense, you got guys like Walker Zampella, was a first-team All-PSAC East selection with 12 doubles and a 3.48 average. Parker Fry hitting 3.49. 15 doubles, 32 driven in. The RBI leader, Cole Surfass, hitting 365, 41. And you got Troy Davis at the top, too. 129 at bats, but he's hitting 380 with an OPS over 1,000, and leads the team with 27 stolen bases. This is a team that has 112 stolen bases out of 139 tries, and they'll take on in another opponent. Again, this is all PSAC regional here. It's, to be specific, all PSAC East, as Bloomsburg is your 5 seed, 27-19, 14-14 in the PSAC East. Didn't make the PSAC tournament, but got in. It's their 5th one, their first since 2021, and they're looking for their first World Series appearance under head coach Mike Collins. And starts with a guy who was the hitter of the year in the PSAC, and that's Grant Russo. 429 average, 1,163 OPS, 12 doubles, 3 triples, 3 home runs, 612 slug. He also is 36 of 41 in stolen bases, so he'll bring pressure in any way, shape, form for this offense. And on the pitching side, led by Brandon Wozniak, who is 2.98 ERA, 4-2 record over 48 1/3 innings. He's a very well pitch to contact guy. Only 8 walks. And then Aiden Murphy, 7-2, 3.59 ERA, and 11 appearances, 10 starts. And Andrew Armstrong rounds out that rotation, 3.93 ERA, 11 starts. So then you have a few guys in the back end as well. They only have 2 team saves on the season, but Brian Walsh is one of those guys that clicked. 104 ERA in 10 appearances. He's 2-0. And then Xander Velez, who's kind of been in a swingman role. He's 4-5, but 4.20 ERA over 30 innings. Expect him to throw a bunch there. And so that's on the Atlantic Regional 1. I was about to say the PSAC East, but obviously all 3 of these teams are in the PSAC East. And then now we go to the other side, and we're going to talk about Millersville, Seton Hill, and Charleston. So start with Millersville, 36-16, 16-12 in the PSAC East. The PSAC tournament expanded to 10 teams. So if this were last year, Millersville wouldn't even make the tournament. But they did. They played that play-in game. They won, and then they ripped their way through all the way to the championship and won, and went back-to-back 2-1 in that championship game. Reese Ritchie, 8 2/3 of giving up 1 run. Really impressive there. But for John Sheehan, this is their 13th consecutive appearance in the tournament, and they've had 4 World Series appearances, and their last being 2023. So they'll look to do what they did in 2023, make it 2 carry there. So talk a little bit about Millersville on that side. So in terms of their guys on the first team and second team, most of it's on the pitching and defense side, but the one second team guy that they have is none other than Matthew Williams, 335 average, 1,079 OPS, 10 home runs, 37 driven, and 11 doubles. He's going to be the leader of this offense. And you got guys like Donis Rodriguez, who's 30 of 36 in stolen bases, so 4-37 OBP. So a guy that'll get on and wreak havoc on the base pass as well. So excited to see that. Brady Ebert, another guy, 8 home runs, 44 driven in. Jimmy Kirk, it's only hitting 283, but 15 home runs, 56 driven in. So that's the other power bat they have in this lineup. And then pitching, mentioned, Reese Ritchie doing what he did. Eli Simonton, 3.62 ERA, 5-2 record. He was second team all PSAC East, 59 2/3 innings. But then you guys got like Matt Shamani, Alex Dune, that can get you innings as well, other starters. So Shamani has got a 3 ERA. Alex has got a 4.79 ERA, 8-4 record for him, and a 5.4 record for Shamani. But the main guy of that bullpen, none other than Joe Morrissey, 21 appearances, 44 1/3 innings, 6 saves, 5-1 record, a 1.02 ERA. That's what you call a fireman roll, if I've ever seen one. 55 strikeouts to 15 walks, 182 batting average against. Expect him to throw a lot of innings in this tournament, as we'll flip over and show it here. Looks like it's not appearing, so hey, beggars can't be choosers. So we'll show Westchester. There we go. So 2 seed Millersville, they'll await the winner or the loser of the Seton Hill Charleston game. So Seton Hill, the PSAC West regular season champions, went 41-10 and 26-2 in conference play as they swept both the Player of the Year and Pitcher of the Year. Brady McGuire and Sean Williams were the Player and Pitcher of the Year respectively, and Mark Marzaldi winning yet another Coach of the Year as they had 6 different guys on first team all PSAC East, and then another one guy, Luke Deschene, or excuse me, 2 guys, Jacob Haynes and Luke Dechanes, who both were on all PSAC second team West. And so now we'll talk about that offense. So Brady McGuire, big reason why he was the West Player of the Year. Well, he hit 449 with a 1.191 OPS, 53 driven in, leads the team, and he's 27-32 in stolen bases. And you got other guys like Owen Henney, who's hitting 409, Jack Whalen, who's hitting 379 with an incredible 44-45 in stolen base attempts. And that jazz. Jacob Haynes has 15 home runs and 51 driven in, excuse me, on that offense. And then you mentioned Sean Williams, 3.32 ERA, 9-2, over 59 2/3 innings. But then you have Mark Wechtenheiser, who has a 2.81 ERA, first team all PSAC West, a .94 whip. He's 8-1. Another guy that was definitely a candidate for the Pitcher of the Year there. And then Christian Zilli out of the bullpen. He's got 3 saves, 19 innings, 2.37 ERA. And then don't forget Zach Herb was a 2.65 ERA, .82 whip, 8 saves. Expect Marzalli to go to those 2 guys late in games as the tournament goes along. Though in Zach Herb's case, we don't know the status of him, whether or not he's available, because he has not thrown since April 3rd. But nonetheless, Seton Hill, the 3 seed, Millersville getting that 2 seed after playing well in the PSAC tournament. And now Seton Hill will face off against Charleston, the 6-seeded team. As for the last thing I'll say of Seton Hill is they made series appearances 2014-21. They've been to 3 straight super regionals. Will they continue that trend there? But for Charleston in this case, tournament champions in the MEC, they're the lone team in the tournament with a losing record, 25-29, but they get that auto bid by winning the tournament, by winning 4 straight elimination games just to claim that title. So good on them. After losing their first game, they turn around and win 4 straight elimination games under Dean Peterson. This is their 7th overall tournament appearance. They're 6th in the last 7 years. They're still looking for that first World Series appearances. On the MEC side of things, they have just 2 players on the second team all-conference, as it's both Colin Kemp and Trent Dozenbach. We're both pretty good hitters, as Dozenbach is hitting 327, 2 home runs, 37, 33, and Colin Kemp's only hit 252, but 37 hits, 37 driven in. And on this pitching staff, too, they have Brevin Deckrosh, who's 4-3 with a 3.17 ERA, 14 starts. He is the guy that'll expect to get big innings as well. And then you got Kai Clips, 18 innings and a 1.50 ERA. So in a nutshell, that breaks down the Atlantic region. Really excited to see how this plays out. And again, how this is set up. Westchester, Pittsburgh, and East Stroudsburg will play Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. The loser of that game will turn around and have to play Westchester. Same time for Charleston, Seton Hill at 11 a.m. Eastern. Loser of that game will have to go play Millersville. And the rest of the bracket is determined on the result of Game 2. So if the highest seeded team wins, it'll essentially just be a best of 3 versus the winner of Game 1. The loser of Game 1 turns around and wins that game. Then they go to the first game on Saturday, and they will play the winner, and they will either play one or another team, and bracket depends on what's going on there for those 3-team regionals. But really excited to see how this plays out. So to see where this regional goes and just the amount of talent in this region, right? Because you got to think, the 4 teams at the top with Westchester, Millersville, Seton Hill, East Stroudsburg. Where are they? Are they going to buck the trend and continue with the success of the PSAC, or could it be another team? Bloomsburg or Charleston. We'll find out beginning Thursday. Present the Midwest Regional, and today we have on special guest Mike Vucsko, and we're going to talk about the 8 teams in the regional as it's seeded 1 through 8. Grand Valley is your 1 seed. UIS is your 2 seed. Wayne State is your 3 seed. Missouri S&T is your 4th seed. Davenport is your 5th seed. Your 6th seed is Missouri St. Louis. Your 7th seed is Indy, and your 8th seed is Kentucky Wesleyan. We'll start with Grand Valley State, a team that went 45-8, 20-4 in the GLIAC. They won the regular season, and they swept their way to a GLIAC tournament title led by GLIAC Coach of the Year, Jordan Kerr. It's their 3rd straight tournament appearance, back-to-back hosting appearances, and, well, if they want to make it all the way to Cary, they can, as they've done it 6 times before in terms of the World Series, their last being 2013. So, Mike, over to you. What's the overall thought of this Grand Valley team in the Midwest Regional?
Well, thanks for having me on, Bobby. Yeah, they've been the best team in the region from start to finish. I think an opening weekend, they kind of put it on Northwood a little bit, and they've kind of just been in cruise control ever since. The unique thing about Grand Valley is that they just started playing home games. As crazy as that sounds, they were on the road for a crazy amount of games early on, and I think the last 2 weekends, I think they only played 12 home games at their place. So they'll probably be a chance to get fresh and sleep in their own beds for their sake. Hopefully, as long as they'll be able to play at home, so which will be in the regional, and then if they win the regional, they'll be able to sleep in their beds in the super regional too. So they probably have the most complete roster, in my opinion, in the region, and the seeding and the record kind of backs that up. So yeah, we'll see how they play this weekend.
Yeah, and it certainly helps when you sweep your Conference Player of the Year and Pitcher of the Year awards, both in Evan Morrison, who's hitting .401 with 25 stolen bases, and Colin Bradley has a 1.87 ERA and is 10-0 and 81 2/3 innings. So it helps there. You also have Jackson Keys, the freshman of the year in the GLIAC, with 3.56 ERA, and Owen Avery with a 2.73 ERA, both with a 9-1 record. And this would be a hard team to beat. You got guys like Caleb Estrada and Jovan Gill, who both have double-digit home runs and doubles. So, again, like you mentioned, and I agree with you, the more complete offenses and pitching staffs overall team that you'll see in this Midwest region. But, their challenger is a team that kind of went on a run in the GMAC tournament and, made some noise there and won it all. So they get an auto bid, and the number 8 seed in Kentucky Wesleyan, they went 4-0 in the GMAC tournament, all from behind fashion, all comeback games. And it was great to see how they did that under head coach Tyler Lopop. And, this is their 5th tournament appearance and their last since 2017, when they also won the GMAC tournament that year as well.
Yeah, I think it's they're playing very, very well at the right time, and I think it's always dangerous, especially for those other teams in the regional, because when you start winning games from behind, you're dangerous, and you never feel like you're out of a game, whether you're down. I think they were down 7. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 7-2 in the 7th inning? They were down to Findlay, something at least close to that. And Findlay's a really good team. To come from behind one more time in a championship game with your season on the line, it speaks volumes to Coach Lillipop over there, who's he's going to probably make fun of me for saying this, but he was coaching when I was playing. So, he's been there a while. He knows what it takes, and he's done a great job over there. And yeah, when you're never out of a game, you're always a dangerous team.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, a lot of it was just big hits, like Ellis Hurt was able to tie that game in the championship game. And I believe it was Jacob Reigel who gave him the lead. But, having guys like Liam Hudson on your team, 12 home runs, 311 average, Rhett Disholm, who's hitting 347. You have guys that can just piece it together and, part of it speaks to their bullpen too. You got David Castleberry, he's got a 3.70 ERA, 20 appearances. Like when it gets down to the fan, like if you have a guy like that who can get you solid innings out of the bullpen when you need it the most, it proved it there in the GMAC tournament. Like part of the equation of those comeback games is the pitching staff has to hold it down for these teams to get back in the game. So Kentucky Wesleyan, doing a great job there and, representing the GMAC as the auto bid is. So 1 versus 8 there, that'll begin at
2 o'clock
p.m.
Eastern. Yeah.
On Thursday. And then the 11 a.m. Eastern matchup will be Missouri S&T and Davenport. So we'll start with Missouri S&T as the 4 seed. They were the GLBC regular season champions after winning the tournament champions a season ago. And they're back in the same regional that they were in a season ago as well. They made it to the GLBC championship game this year. They lost to UMSL. But, under Todd DeGraff and Reed, the GLBC coach of the year, they didn't miss a beat from last year. And, this is their 5th tournament appearance. And, they're looking to not just say, hey, we made the tournament, but we're comfortably in the tournament and we're going to make some noise.
Yeah, I think a team, last year, I don't want to say it was a surprise. It definitely wasn't a surprise to them, but, they were a little bit of a dark horse last year. And, this year they kind of lived up to the expectations of kind of getting back there. So it was really impressive. Anytime you make a regional, it's impressive. But anytime you make it 2 years in a row, it becomes even more impressive. And they're an old team. They're an experienced team. They're a winning team. Last year and this year is proof of that. Bryson Smith is probably one of the best players in the region. He can kind of do it all. He's going to get his hits to the opposite field, to the pull side. He can run. He can play defense. He can play different positions. So, and then Dylan Bates is on fire right now with just putting up numbers and going then deep into the game. And then Wimp out of the back end. That's an electric arm as well. So they're good. They're really good. Coach DeGraffenry's done a great job forever. And yeah, they're on a mission. They're on a mission to win this thing. And there's a few other teams in their way, but they're not going to be afraid. They're not going to be shocked by the moment that on the stage that they've already been there before. So I'm interested to see how they come out. And we were talking a little bit earlier, I think they're the only team, maybe Kentucky Wesleyan. They do have a time change. So playing at 10 o'clock might be a little bit of an adjustment period. It would be 10 o'clock Central Time, and they're playing at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So that's an adjustment period for sure. Just waking up, getting your bodies ready, especially on the pitching side of things, just because these guys are such creatures of habit that there could definitely be an adjustment period. And I know they're going to get up there a day early and practice and try to get used to it, but just something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely something to think about. But also something to think about is, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, the come from behind fashion, it's really dangerous. And they did it in an impressive way in the semifinals against UIndy, down 9-3 in the GLBC tournament. They score 3 in the 7th and then an 8-run 8th to ultimately win 14-10 in that game to go to the GLBC championship game. And yeah, like you mentioned, they have the pitching. They have the pitching behind them, similar to last year. And it's great to see a guy like Whip, in the back end, someone you can rely on. And then Dylan Bates, you mentioned a 3.55 ERA. He's 10-1.
Yeah,
really impressive there. And just it helps go a long way because especially when you're taking the ball game 1 at 10 a.m., if you have Bates on the mound, you got a good chance. And then batting offensively, they're more on the small ball end, but they put pressure on defenses just about as good as anyone in the country. 36 sacks.
Full court press.
Yeah. And I mean, they 151 out of 176 in stolen bases. Like they're going to make sure when they get on base, they're going to make sure that it's going to be hard for you to keep them off the bases as well. So that'll be a tough matchup for 5th seeded Davenport, 29-26, 15-9 in the GLIAC. They went 2-2 in the GLIAC tournament. They lost both of those games to Grand Valley State under Kevin Tidy. This is their 4th tournament appearance since 2021, and they're looking still for their first World Series appearance in NCAA history as an NAIA member, they made it in 2015, but the overall arching thing of Davenport is, despite the record, they played a really tough schedule, and for them to able to come 3 games above 500 is pretty good.
It's really impressive. This might be the most impressive turnaround in the region. With I know they definitely got off to a slow start, and to scratch and claw their way back to 500 is a really good job by Coach Tidy, who's been doing this for a long time, and has a history of his teams just kind of getting better. And that's not uncommon for teams in the north. Like, the warmer it gets, the better they start getting, because they can start practicing outside a little bit more. It's tough in February. You go outside, you go south and play, you come back, boom, you're right back in the gym, and it's hard to just replicate game situations. So I'm guessing that's why he has a history of just his teams getting better as the season goes on. But I'm pretty sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they lost their entire rotation from last year. And to get back to a regional when you lose your entire rotation that speaks volumes to the program, to the culture, and recruiting and his assistant coaches and all the above. So it's been impressive. I know they've had a handful of position players back from last year's team. Clay and Johnson and those guys did a lot of damage over the weekend in the GLIAC tournament. But it's pretty impressive, man, to get back there 2 years in a row and jump all the way to the 4 seed, and to have a winning record against the strength of schedule that they had. It's impressive.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes too. Like, they started off 3-8 to begin the season, and so they really had to turn it around, and they ended up doing that, going 26-18 to close it out. And yeah, like you mentioned, without the pitching staff, somehow they, what's even impressive too is Easton Remick, 4.60 ERA, 5-4 record. He was a first-team All GLIAC member. So not only you replace your rotation, but you get a guy who then becomes first-team All Conference. Really speaks volumes to how they've done. And yeah, you mentioned Pawlenski, Justin Johnson, Wyatt Apple, Sam Clay doing Sam Clay things. In the 2025 GLIAC Tournament Championship, he hit a walk-off home run. And then, funny enough, in their first game of the GLIAC Tournament this year, another walk-off home run. So
and the dead center too. To dead center too. So it wasn't a cheapie or wind dated or anything like that. Like, if you hit one to the biggest part of the yard. And the other interesting thing with them being in the Grand Valley Regional is, I don't know this, I'm just assuming that, but they're probably just going to commute because they're only about 30 minutes away. So for them to be able to sleep in their own beds and just have a comfort and, go through their same routine, I think that's going to be important for them, and they might have a slight advantage over Kentucky Wesleyan and S&T just by sleeping in their own beds. We're all a little bit more comfortable when we're sleeping under our own roof or a place that we're more comfortable in. So I don't know that to be true. I'm just assuming because they're 30 minutes away, so they would probably just commute back and forth. Yeah,
and yeah, that goes a long way. Plus, you mentioned time zones. Like, they don't have to worry about changing time zones or anything like that. And the side of it too is having the fan base, because hey, our home, it's basically our home yard, but 30 minutes away.
Right.
Being able to have that in your back end too really helps. And yeah, it'll be great to see this Davenport team and how they compete, because Tidy's teams are always tough in postseason play.
For sure.
And so we go now to the other regional bracket, which was Illinois Springfield gets that host seed, and they will host there in Springfield, Illinois, as they went 34-18, 21-11 GLBC. They finished 5th. They went 1-1 in the GLBC tournament, beating Rockhurst before losing to Drury in a single elimination game in his first season with Chris Rodriguez at the helm. Pretty impressive stuff to be able to say, hey, first team as a head coach, or first season as a head coach, able to get a host seed. And, this is their 6th tournament appearance. They went 5 consecutive from 2018 to 2023, so they're back since 2023. 5th time hosting. Again, mentioned that 2019 and 2021 to 2023. And their last World Series appearance was 2022, winning that. So looking to get back, and they certainly have some firepower in that offense. A lot of good guys who can hit the ball and hit the ball well.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure I apologize to these guys in advance if I butcher any of their names, but Atkinson, Boyette, Griffiths, and Caceres, along with Wendling and Morton, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, like it might be as good as it gets in this region. It's relentless. They swing at strikes. They make hard contact. There's a mixture of power and speed, which is rare. And with those guys are all rolling, like they're going to be really, really tough to get out. And, they're going to be playing at home, which everyone loves playing at home this time of year. The weather should be good. It's just going to, as big as a factor as it might be, some of it might depending on which way the wind's blowing. Because if it's blowing out, they're going to be tough to stop for sure. If they're blowing in, they're still explosive enough to find ways to score some more runs with, because they can run a little bit as well. But, yeah, man, C-Rod has done a great job in his first full season. And the pitching staff, I know they're dealing with a few injuries maybe on the back end with Graff there. I don't know what his status is this weekend, but, he's as good as it gets back there as well. And, his availability might depend on how long they could keep playing. But either way, they're a complete team. They're totally deserving of the 2 seed. This is probably the toughest regional to predict, because all 4 of these teams could come out of this regional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it helps when your first 3 hitters in the lineup combine for about a 380 average and a 1200 OPS. So, like Mike mentioned, this might be the best hitting team. I'd say it's the best 1 through 3 in the region when you have guys who all have at least 15 doubles and then 12 plus home runs in the first 3 spots. So, a lot of offense there out of Atkinson, Boyette, and Griffiths. So that's part of it. And then 2 on the end, pitching wise, you do have good win-loss records in Ben Benoit and Mark DeSico as your 2 starters, 7-3 and 6-3 respectively. The ERAs are maybe not what you expect it to be, but
it's always tough, man. The ERAs in the GLVC, it's always tough because there's so many hitters parks. You got to kind of look at the strikeouts and the walks, and if that ratio is good, you probably got a pretty good arm. The ERAs sometimes you got to throw out the window just because the parks are so offensive in that league. So
absolutely, and so by ERA measures, maybe not the best of years, but both of them have a strikeout to walk ratio above 2, 2.5, closer to 3 for both of those guys. So they're gonna compete in the zone. And yeah, it really depends on the status of Graff because it helps when you have a guy with a .74 ERA and 4 saves with 30 walks to 8 strikeouts over 24 and a third innings. Either way, this is a team that predicates itself on good pitching and good defense, and they're fielding pretty well at .968 as well. So playing in your home yard too, it goes a long way, like Mike mentioned. But unfortunately, they get a team that, when it comes to postseason time, they just hit another level, and that's the UIndy Greyhounds, 33-21, 22-10 in the GLBC. They went 2-2 in the GLBC tournament, losing to both UMSL and Missouri S&T, who are both in the tournament now as well. 4th straight tournament appearance. They've been to 3 straight super regionals the last 3 seasons, and they're looking for their 3rd World Series appearance in 4 years under head coach Al Reddy.
Yeah, and they got probably arguably the best player in the region. I don't think that's going out of a stretch in Austin Bodie. I mean, these numbers are just 17 doubles, 18 homers, a .512 on base percentage, played in every single game, just about every single game. Yeah, I mean, he's as good as it gets, and I think batting him leadoff to make sure he gets the most at bats, I think is a really good decision. And it's tough. I mean, if you have one of the best players, if not the best player in the region, you're gonna always have a chance. I mean, he's on base over half the time. And I think he has some impressive streak going, 45 games in a row, 46 games in a row, something like that, where he's gotten on base. So, it's a pretty impressive streak. And I don't know what it is. Every year at this time, they're always playing their best baseball, and they do a good job on the bases. 109 stolen bases. So when they get on, and the other part of that is they have 109 stolen bases, and that's as impressive. But they've only allowed 51 stolen bases too. So you're stealing bases and you're not giving up stolen bases. That's a tough combination because singles turn into doubles, a double turns into a triple, and if you're not allowing that, it's tough for the opponent to score a run. And statistically, I bet this is one of the best pitching staffs Coach Reddy's had in the last 5 or 6 years too.
Yeah, it certainly is when you have two starters with an ERA under 4, both in Aiden Pearson and Ryan O'Born. And yeah, like you mentioned, the GLVC being an offensive league as it is, that goes a long way with two guys with ERAs under 4. And then not only to help that, but Drake Downing's been their fireman. I mean, think about it this way: he's got 49 innings over 27 appearances. So
Hallahan too. Hallahan's has been almost as impressive as Downing too.
That's right. Because I looked at him in the, I assumed he was in the starter category, but yeah, 20 appearances, 1 start, 56 and 2/3 innings. Both of those guys, playing that fireman role and saying, hey, like I can get you 2+ innings out if need be, and that's going to go a long way in a tournament like this. Double elimination, as didn't mention this at the beginning, but this is the first time I think since, I want to say, in about 10 years where the Midwest region now is expanded to 8 teams. Previously,
I want to say maybe 2016, maybe last year, maybe 17. They had an 8-team regional. I think one year at Quincy hosted one, and I think Northwood hosted one. There were 2 8-team regionals, and I think that might have been the last year.
So yeah, that was the and so that being said, that again back to 8 teams. So now here we are, 8 teams, and speaking of familiar territory, if you go back to 2023, UIndy was the 7 seed in a 7-team regional, and guess where they played at? Illinois Springfield. So history could repeat itself there, but remains to see. But on the other side, it's nearly all GLVC, but we're going to talk about the one team that's not in the GLVC in this regional, and that's Wayne State, Michigan. 37-14, 17-7 in the GLIAC. They went 1-2 in the GLIAC tournament under Ryan Kelly. It's their 11th tournament appearance and their first since 2023. Still looking for that first World Series appearance as well.
Yeah, Wayne State is as consistent as they come. Just every year they're always really well coached. They have a lot of talent. They throw strikes. They play defense, and that'll keep them in just about every single game. And I do think as offensive, I know we touched on as offensive as the GLVC is, the GLIAC, I think you have to take some of the offensive numbers with a grain of salt because they're just playing in such cold weather for a majority of the year that, like, Wayne State, the numbers maybe aren't as impressive on the offensive side just as far as like team batting average goes, but they could hit. Like they're hitting 294, the on-base percentage is 408, and those are good numbers. I'm not taking anything away from them, but they're better offensively than those numbers. And they got guys who could hit. And then on the pitching side of things, they always got guys who throw strikes, mixed pitches. I think Lowry is one of the best guys statistically, but I think Nash probably has the best stuff. And they're good. I mean, they're good too. I'm curious to see how they come out because they were kind of the number 2 team in the region just about all year until the last ranking came out. So I don't know if they had, I think it's just a factor. They had their hopes up of potentially hosting, and now you get let down a little bit by being the 3 seed and having to take a 6-7 hour drive down to Springfield. We'll see where their minds are. I think Coach Kelly will have them ready, but that could play a little bit of a role into this. Is just, hey, we're the 2 seed. We're going to host. And then boom, Springfield has a little bit of a run and you take a small step back, and things were so tight, right? From the 2 seed to the 4 seed that I don't think and either of us would have been surprised if S&T was hosting and they got the 4 seed, but it ended up being Springfield, who had the boxes in their advantage.
Yeah, and too with Wayne State is the time zone difference kind of plays in their favor now because now they're going from Eastern time to Central time, so their projected 2:00 start time is actually 3 p.m. Eastern, which is their normal game 1 of the series start time. So might help in their favor. And I mean, you got guys like Drew Hills hitting 404 with OPS over 1,000. Double-digit doubles and home runs, just like his teammate Owen Tuccinardi's at 318. Will Lowry, like you mentioned, 3.76 ERA, 8-2. He and Hill are first-team All-GLIAC members. Gavin Nash, but then in the back end, you got a couple guys that you can rely on, especially the the horse known as Rocco Cardinale that was mentioned on the GLIAC broadcast during the GLIAC tournament. 1.56 ERA, 7 saves in 14 appearances. So he'll definitely be relied on. Guys like Philip Miller, Will DeMoss, guys who have a lot of appearances out of the bullpen, TJ McAllister, a couple guys that will be expected to get some outs out of the bullpen. Is, in terms of saves, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different guys with at least one save. So they could use a myriad of guys to try to close the door in this regional.
Yeah, Coach Kelly's got a good a lot of options to bring out of there. And I think, and I mean this in a great way, I think it's kind of every coach's dream is like, everyone's kind of the same. They're all strike throwers. They all can mix pitches. They all hold runners, 183 walks and 430 innings. Like, that's insanely good. So he trusts a lot of guys, and it's a great luxury for him to have, especially when you get into a tournament, and especially a double elimination where you're going to need arms. 8 through 12 are going to play a role into this, especially if you're going to play more than 2 games.
Yeah. And, speaking of, in this tournament format, a team that hasn't experienced this kind of format since 2003, and that's the Missouri St. Louis Tritons, who went unbeaten to win their first GLVC tournament title since 2003. So that's the last time they won the tournament title and the last time they made a regional. And their head coach, Scott Ewell, they've made 5 World Series appearances. You don't really think about that because the last time they made a World Series was the year I was born in 1996. So makes it interesting with that 33-20 record. But hey, they got in and as the 2 seed and they won the tournament. So they're playing good baseball at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, pitching's kind of been the name of the game for them recently, for sure. I mean, Cartwright, Nicolay, Johnson, and then Hagen's in the back end has got to be 55 punch outs in 35 innings says everything. And there's been rumors that fastball's been up to 97, 98 out of the bullpen. So, and it's just kind of come right at you, and you better get your foot down and ready to hit. But it's just so tough to hit that. And there's guys at this level who are definitely capable of hitting that, but it's harder to hit that when you don't see that every day. And if you got a lead and this is the first time you're seeing 96, 97, it's going to be tough to hit. Yeah, 143 stolen bases too, I think is the number. So they're going to a little bit, a lot of these teams are very reliant on the stolen base. Them, Indy, S&T. So I think whoever's going to come out, and before I move on, Cartwright is probably statistically the best pitcher in the region. That you don't see a lot of guys with a sub-3 ERA who've thrown that many innings, close to 70 innings, and he's got a sub-3 ERA. So, if you got him and he can win you a ball game and get you deep into it and you can save that bullpen. And when you talk about this too, there's going to be guys who are going to start on Thursday and come back on Saturday. It's just going to happen. It's some of these guys, it's going to be the last innings that they're going to pitch. So throwing your number one, not even thinking about pitching off for any of these teams because you want to bring them back maybe on 2 days rest if you're in a must-win game or in the if necessary game too. So having him potentially pitching twice is huge. Him and Bradley, my guess is they're probably the 2 statistically best pitchers in the region. And it'll probably come down to a couple of votes on who's going to win region pitcher of the year, either Cartwright or Bradley. So
yeah, and too, like you mentioned with Hagen's 55 strikeouts in 35 2/3 innings, Cartwright 96 strikeouts in 68 2/3 innings. Says all you need to know. This guy's got a lot of swing and miss stuff, and that 8-3 record with a 2.36 ERA. But then you also talk about the offense, and you got to talk about Mitch Bonchowski, who's hitting 432 with a 1348 OPS, 22 home runs, 16 doubles. He's that spark plug for the offense, and will go a long way for this team. That he's the one that kind of drives in the guys, and the rest of the team is the guys that get on base and steal bases. But that's the one that does the real damage. 71 RBI, leading the team. Next highest RBI leader is 42. So that really speaks to how well it is. And if he does well, the team does well. But either way, it breaks down this a tough regional. Like you said, Mike, at the beginning when we started talking about this, was any 4 of these teams could come out of here and be in the super regional pod against that opposite bracket. It'll be interesting to see which team does.
Yeah. It's going to be flip a coin. I mean, I have no idea with this region. Indy's been there before. Springfield's hosting. Wayne State's steady Eddie. And UMSL, I think, has the pitching depth, and you got to feel good if you're UMSL running out anyone at this point with how well everyone's pitching. So I'm not making a prediction. No chance. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to watching and seeing how these teams come out and play, and it'll be a fun regional. I mean, this has been kind of a crazy, regular season throughout the Midwest, just with teams kind of so close, right? I mean, you go back to like Findlay was a 6 and happened to fall out. Indy was a 7 and jumped them, and Davenport in the first ranking wasn't even ranked and jumped all the way to 5. So like things are so tight in the regional that I wouldn't really be surprised if 2 lower seeds ended up playing in the super regional. That wouldn't surprise me one bit.
No, absolutely not. But either way, we're excited to see is on the UIS side. They'll take on UIndy at 11 a.m. Central Time on Thursday, and then at 2 p.m. Central Time. So we'll take on Wayne State. But nonetheless, that breaks down the Midwest region. The Midwest regional, these 8 teams will bid for their chance to go to Cary, North Carolina, and represent the Midwest region, a region that certainly wishes they can do better once that whoever that team is gets to Cary. Struggling in the last few years in terms of win-loss record there. But nonetheless, it'll be a great region to watch. And thanks again, Mike, for coming on to talk about this regional and the teams within.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for everything that you do for Division II baseball. You're a great advocate to have.
On to the Central region, we talk about 8 teams that got into the tournament and seeded 1 through 8. Mention them each as Pittsburgh State is your 1 seed, 43-9, 27-9, the MIAA regular season and tournament champions. So they're the auto bid. They'll play 8th seeded Arkansas Tech, 35-20, 23-10 in the GAC. They're the GAC tournament champions, the lone GAC team in the tournament. 4th seeded Northwest Missouri State, 36-16, 25-11 the MIAA, and then 5th seeded Augustana, 41-13, 30-7 the NSIC. They are the regular season and tournament champions there. Then on the other side of the bracket, it's number 2 seed Rogers State, 38-13, 26-10 in the MIAA. They were the runner-up in the MIAA regular season. 7th seeded Missouri Southern, 33-17, 26-10 in the MIAA. 3rd seeded Central Missouri, 34-15, 24-12 the MIAA, and then 6th seeded Minnesota State, 40-14, 29-7 in the NSIC. So we'll get started right away with that first pod, which is hosted by Pittsburgh State. Their first time hosting a Central Regional, and we'll break it down here. So number 1 seed Pittsburgh State. What a year it's been under Brock Buckingham this first season. Takes over legendary coach Bob Fornelli, and they swept their way to a MIAA tournament title, 3 straight run rule victories. It's their 7th tournament appearance, their 2nd straight. And again, hosting that first pod in first time in program history. They got to the super regionals last year. Can they get to Cary this year, this season? Well, there's a good chance they do, because they have quite some talent on this squad, as the player of the year starts with Diggin Brewer, some other guys that were first team all MIAA. Grant Nodelman behind the plate, Jaden McNeely at shortstop. Obviously mentioned Diggin Brewer, but also Eric Bacon as well on the first team. Just a mention of note, just on that first team, Zach Voss is a 2nd teamer, as well as Isaac Webb, 2nd teamer. Braden McClure is a 3rd teamer, and the list goes on. The Gold Glove team, Grant Nodelman and Eric Bacon are on your Gold Glove team. But let's talk about what makes Dagan Brewer the player of the year. Well, he's hitting 436 with an OPS above 1,500. That's plenty to say. And, well, he's got 21 doubles, 24 home runs, and 101 RBI. He is just shy of the NCAA record, which I believe is I want to say 102 and 103, but I will double check that for you just so you know and we're aware as well. But nonetheless, Dagan Brewer on an outstanding run here. So make sure I got it up. Well, it won't let me. Anyways, nonetheless, we'll move on. The record book. Eric Bacon, another guy, hit 403, OPS over 1,000, 15 doubles, 68 driven in. Isaac Webb, 383, OPS over 1,100, 17 doubles, 12 home runs, 79 driven in. And then you got guy and Isaac Webb too, 37 stolen bases. And then of course, gotta mention Jaden McNeely has 47 stolen bases, and I believe that is now the most in Division II baseball. Let's go on the pitching side. Mentioned Zach Voss, he's 11-2, but then Braden McClure 5-0 with a 3.72 ERA, Voss with a 3.99 ERA. So pretty good arms there. And then you got Kason Long, who's a 2.94 ERA, 3-0 over 33 innings, all in relief. Ryan Leiker, Ethan Froud, Jackson Cahoy, all guys, Ethan Froud and Ryan Leiker, all with 10-plus innings in ERA under 4. And you got other guys, Ty Bletcha, Bradley Neal, guys who will throw a bunch of innings, a little bit higher in the ERA standpoint, but may be asked to call upon for these Gorillas as they'll take on 8th-seeded Arkansas Tech. The lone GAC team, as they won 2 games in that best-of-3 against East Central, as this is their 8th tournament appearance. They're looking their first World Series appearance. They were in the tournament last year as well. So, without further ado, Kirby Jenkins is a guy to watch, as well, he's pretty darn good in his own right, hitting 349 with an OPS over 1,100. I believe he was on that first team. Yes, he was. And Eric Woodley and Creighton Jacobitz are the other two, and so we'll get to them momentarily, as Jacobitz is 7-4 with a 3.42 ERA, 71 strikeouts, 1 2/3 innings. And then you got Daniel Hutchinson, who's 10-5 with a 4.46 ERA, 59 strikeouts. And then other guys, you got like Eric Woodley, like I mentioned, he's got 11 saves, pretty good, 24 2/3, 18 appearances, 2-1 record, 1.82 ERA. And yeah, Ashton Greeley is another key bullpen arm, 21 appearances, all in relief, 43 innings, and he's got a 2.30 ERA as well. So you have a chance when you have a guy like Jacobitz, and then you have a chance when you have Greeley and Woodley in the back end. So can they stifle Pittsburgh State offense, or will Pittsburgh State do Pittsburgh State things they've done all year and just dominate the competition? And so we'll get to our 4-5 game now. 4-seed Northwest Missouri State. How about Tony Jandra in his second year getting the Bearcats back to the postseason for the first time since 2023? And if you want to talk about World Series appearance, they do have one. It just so happens to be all the way back in 1975. So looking to rewrite history and being able to get to that get to those heights as they did way back when, and a 36-16 record. Believe that they did set a school record with 25 wins in MIAA play this season. They went 25-11. They're the 4-seed, and a lot of it is reliant upon that offense too, because they have a couple guys on the second team there as well. So they have Jeremiah Kabubayan, Wilmer Jimenez, and Frank Gall on the second team, as well as pitcher Ben Haig. And then the third team, they have John Connors on that squad. But we'll talk about that offense. Frank Gall is the offensive leader, 362 average, OPS over 1,100, 17 doubles, 13 home runs, 55 driven in. And he's the lone guy that'll steal bases for you, 25 to 26 in stolen bases. Only one other guy has 10 or more. Jeremiah Cabobayan, mentioned him. He's got the team leading in OPS and over 1,200 with a 341 average. He's got 15 doubles, 17 home runs, 52 driven in, slugging over 714 as well. And mentioned John Connors, 15 doubles, 52 driven with a 325 average. On the pitching side, Ben Haig, 5-2 with a 4.86 ERA. He's got 15 appearances, 13 starts. Those 2 relief appearances, well, he got saves in both. So he can do it on both sides. And yeah, this could be an expectation of, hey, we're gonna need you to not only start a game but possibly close it out as the tournament goes on. And yeah, other guys like out of the bullpen, Landon Wells, he's got 20 appearances, 37 innings, 5.06 ERA. Other guys like Jeremy Evangelista, 5.52 ERA, 14 2/3, 218 batting average against. So a very offensive style. They're hitting 300 as a team. Can they continue to do that in Pittsburgh, Kansas? And well, they're going to face off a really good Augustana team. After the year that they had last year, won 39 games, didn't even get in the tournament. They said, well, we're going to stop that, and we're going to leave no doubt. They won both the NSIC regular season and tournament, so they get that auto bid as the 5th seed. And it's really cool to see that as Tim Huber's in his 18th season. 10th tournament appearance, their 5th consecutive, or excuse me, their 5th in their last 6 years of tournament appearances. 2 World Series appearances as well, 2018 and 2023. So with Tim Huber, who they have offensively and on the mound, well, we'll talk about first team. Got a few guys on Augustana. So yeah, Troy Berg, Mariano Gomez, Carter Heinz, all 3 guys, 2 offensive, 1 defensive. We'll talk about Troy Berg hitting 310 with an OPS over 1,000, 17 doubles, 10 home runs, 51 driven in. Carter Heinz, 358 with an OPS over 1,000, 21 doubles, 7 home runs, 55 driven in. And then a couple other guys are actually hitting above them, like Kobe Eichmeyer, who's the defensive player of the year in the NSIC, hitting 358 with 19 doubles, 23 of 23 in stolen bases. Should mention Berg is also 23 of 23. Heinz is 21 of 24. Reagan Pinnow leads the team in hitting at 374. Nate Soderly is second in hitting at 362. So makes a really tough offensive team as a team that's hitting 327. I mentioned Gomez, the pitcher of the year. He's 8-0 with a 3.47 ERA over 59 2/3 innings. Then you got a guy in Ethan Hoffman. That's a good number 2. He's 6-2 with a 4.50 ERA in 58 innings. Then you got guys on the back end, plenty of guys to go around. Adam Dietrich is their guy. 14 appearances, 7 saves, 3.26 ERA. But then you got other guys like Jaden Bast, who's got a 2.25 ERA with 2 saves. Jack Sutton, 16 appearances, 3.63 ERA. Josiah Pearson, 3.82 ERA, 33 innings. Ryan Clemente, 3.82 ERA, 33 innings as well. And Joel Van de Straat, who's been a swingman role and been impactful in the NSIC tournament as well, 4.50 ERA. So as the tournament goes along, expect those guys to come in that 4-5 side of the bracket as we go to now the Central Regional number 2, which is Roger State, Missouri Southern, Central Missouri, and Minnesota State. So very MIAA heavy with 1 NSIC team in there. And we'll start with 2-seeded Roger State. They were the runner-up, Chris Klimas in his 12th season. MIAA Coach of the Year, their second NCAA tournament appearance. Their first one's 2019. They're first in the Central region, as 2019 they were a member of the now defunct Heartland Conference. They won the tournament there, but that Heartland Conference was a part of the South Central region. So looking for their first NCAA World Series appearance. They were in the World Series in 2012 as a member of the NAIA. So we'll talk a little bit about some of their top players there, as they have a few. One on the first team, all MIAA, and that's Andrew Ramirez. And you got Ricardo Landeros on the second team, Cade Goki, as well as Sammy Harris and Andres Contreras on that second team. And I did say Sammy Harris. Perfect. And then Trevor Spainhoward, Zach Horwith, Dylan Dybrell, Damon Anderson Wolf. Basically, their entire rotation was the third team. Nathan Gutierrez as well. So talk a little bit about there. Contreras is hitting 374, 10 doubles, 53 driven in. Andrew Ramirez leads the team in RBI with 55, 13 doubles, 7 home runs. And then on the flip side, you got Luis Fuentes leading the team with a 383 average, hitting an OPS over 1,000. As a team, they're hitting 325, so another team that can really put out the thump offensively. Then their trio of third team all MIAA, Damon Anderson Wolf, he's 9-0 with a 3.55 ERA. Gotta like your chances with him. Spencer Hatch, 4-2 with a 4.47 ERA. And then Dylan Dybrell, 4.59, 8-4 record. 4.59 ERA, 8-4 record, 66 2/3 innings. Zach Horwith, 5-3 with a 4.50 ERA over 70 innings, as well as. This is a team that really doesn't use a lot of pitching. Matter of fact, if you want to be specific, they've used 12 pitchers all year. Yes, exactly 12. And of those 12, only 9 of those pitchers have made at least 10 appearances. And so, with that being said, there's probably you're going to roll out those 9 guys. As Ricardo Landeros mentioned him, and all MIAA, 3.21 ERA, 5 saves, 33 innings. Mason Trotter has 3 saves, 4.09 ERA. He's 5-0. Michael Klein has 3 saves. He's at 4.45 ERA as well. And other guys like Elijah Knowlton, who has 13 appearances, and Cole Abbott, who has 10 appearances. So expect Rogers State to roll out the same couple guys as the tournament goes along. And who knows, some of those guys might come back on short rest and throw some more. So interesting to see there as they take on at-large bid Missouri Southern at their 11th tournament appearance, their 4th since 2019. They made it to the World Series in back-to-back years back, all the way back in 1991 and 1992 under head coach. Well, he was not the head coach then, but Bryce Darnell, the now head coach, looking to go back to Cary or go to Cary for the World Series. And talk about some of the guys they have. Braden Lukehart, who's hitting 392, leading the team with a 1,200 OPS. You got Blake Jones and Jacob Phillip both hitting 337 on their team, respectively. And then all the way down, Will Doherty has 12 home runs and 63 driven in. Pitching-wise, Owen Schneider's 8-2 with a 3.39 ERA. You got a guy like Jackson Gamble, who's been their fireman reliever, 20 appearances, 1 start, 36 1/3 innings, 3.72 ERA, 5-0 record. Yeah, Marcus Young, who has 8 saves in 22 appearances. And of those guys, Lukehart and Doherty and Schneider, all first-team MIAA, as well as Phillip. Jason Lazo, didn't mention him. He's second-team MIAA, and then third-team MIAA. Doesn't appear to be anybody from Missouri Southern there, but also Lukehart's all on the all MIAA defensive team as well. So a very familiar matchup going on here between these two teams. As like I said, in this pod, there's 3 out of 4 teams in one conference. And so, excuse me, Central Missouri will take on Minnesota State in a 3v6 game. So the third seeded Central Missouri Mules, certainly no stranger to postseason appearances. This is their 36th tournament appearance in program history. This is their 28th in the last 31 tournaments. Kyle Crooks in his 12th season, as they made 19 World Series appearances, their last being last year as a national runner-up, and they have 2 national titles, 1994 and 2003. But under Kyle Crooks, they certainly have a few guys that are worthy of selections. They have one first-team All-MIAA selection in Sawyer Allen, the starting pitcher. Then they have Grayson Chappell as a second-teamer, as well as Cole Kreisel on the second team. On the third team, you got Gavin Williams, you got Chase Wilcox, as well as Cole Funkhauser, and then all Gold Glove team, Chase Wilcox and Cole Kreisel are your defensive team there. So go a little bit in the stats. In terms of qualified hitters, Chase Wilcox leads the team with a 370 average. Grant Hollister is hitting 377, but he does not have enough at bats to qualify. So Chase Wilcox leading the team. He's got 19 stolen bases as well. This is a team that will certainly run 178 stolen bases on the season as a team. And then you got Riker Edwards second hitting at 359, as well as, they certainly have done more on the base pass. They don't quite have the power that they did last year. So they have to find creative ways to win, and this is their ways of winning. And you got Cole Kreisel hitting 339 with an OPS over 1,000. He has 10 doubles. Grant Hauser has 18 doubles as well. So offense going around is putting pressure on the defense by stealing base. And then you have a clear number one in Sawyer Allen, 2.41 ERA, 0.97 whip, 6-1 record in 13 appearances, 67 innings. They got Grayson Chappell with a 2.48 ERA and over 40 innings. And out of the bullpen, you got Casey Crawford, who has 17 innings with a 3.57 ERA. Your saves leader is Sam Wyrick, 17 innings, 4.65 ERA, 31 innings. Look to call upon him. Gavin Killian's another guy that look to call upon. Hayes Allen as well. And, of course, Chris Massey, who leads the team with 20 appearances. They'll take on another team with a storied history in Minnesota State, storied history being that this is their 44th tournament appearance in Division II baseball, tied for most all time with Florida Southern at a 40-14 record, 29-7. Mentioned that. 8 World Series appearances as well, their last being 2014. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the players of the year for this program. The newcomer of the year, especially, was C.J. Trask for Minnesota State Mankato, as he is sharing the first team with 5 other teammates as well: Jake Birkeland, Sam George, Lewis Moggers, Cole Yearsley, and Daniel Zhang. And then on the second team, there's 3 more: Matt Crowley, Charlie Shaw, and Brandon Blecko as well. And defensively, they have Brandon Blecko as the lone Minnesota State recognition. But Birkeland leading the team, hitting 366, 11 doubles, 11 home runs, 21-24 at stolen bases. Cole Yearsley hitting 359 with an OPS over 1,000 at 1,200. 9 doubles, 16 home runs, 65 driven, and he's the RBI leader, tied with Louis Moggers, who's hitting 291 with an OPS over 1,000, 16 home runs, 65 driven in there. And Trask hitting 358 with an OPS over 1,100. 15 doubles, 12 home runs. And on the pitching side, 2 guys that are very successful in both Sam George and Matt Crowley. So that's Matt Crowley has a 2.48 ERA, 7-0 record, and Sam George a 3.39 ERA, 7-2 record, both with under 20 walks and over 65 or 63 innings to be more specific. And then out of the bullpen, you got Ben Ersfeld with a 3.07 ERA, and how about this? A 0.88 whip in 21 appearances, 41 innings, 5 saves, 4-1 record. Daniel Zhang, as we mentioned, 52 innings, 7-1 record, with a 3.12 ERA. So they have some depth on the mound. Now, will they get to that point of using all 3 starters in starting roles? One of those guys may come out of the bullpen to help save a game, but they have, of course, that tough matchup in Central Missouri, 2 teams with storied programs and storied history. So remains to be seen, but this Central region will make a tough region. You have teams with a lot of storied history, and then the 1 and 2 seed as kind of your newcomers in terms of, creating their own history, in terms of, both Pitt State and Rogers State possibly being their first time ever making it to carry North Carolina for the World Series. But it'll be a great, great matchup of 8 teams, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. As the quick breakdown of day 1 on Thursday, Pitt State will host Arkansas Tech at 3 p.m. Central, and then at 6 p.m. Central in the Pitt State bracket, it'll be Augustana, Northwest Missouri State. In the Rogers State bracket, Rogers State will play first at 2 o'clock against Missouri Southern, and then at 5 o'clock it'll be Minnesota State and Central Missouri. The rest of the bracket will play out as such. So be sure to check out our website to be able to see up-to-date standings and scores as well. So now break down the Central Regional. And now we talk about the East region, where there's 6 teams that got into the tournament. And we'll talk of the 6 teams that got in. Your top seed is Bentley. Your 2 seed is Malloy. Your 3 seed is Southern New Hampshire. 4 seed Wilmington, Delaware. We've got the auto bid. Bentley got the auto bid for the NE10. Malloy got the auto bid for the ECC. And then your 5th seed is Goldie Beacom, and your 6th seed is the defending East Region champions, Felician. So let's talk there and talk about the bracket here. So first bracket, 3-team brackets. You got Bentley as your 1 seed, and Wilmington as your 4, and Goldie Beacom as your 5. So first for Bentley. How about Bentley? They captured their first ever NE10 championship. They went undefeated in the tournament. And beat SNHU for their first NE10 title. It's also their first ever NCAA tournament appearance under head coach Mike Hill, who's the NE10 Coach of the Year. And we'll talk about some of their offensive stars and pitching stars, as you name it. So it starts with none other than Stan DeMartinez III, who broke, funny enough, Mike Hill's home run record, both single season and career. He has 21 home runs, 73 driven in, 353 average. You got guys like Nick Pappas, who's hitting 408 with 11 home runs. Jared Berardino, who's hitting 377 with 16 home runs offensively. I know there's a lot to be said for some of those guys. Brandon Senzage, who is hitting 357. He's on a first team all NE10. Same goes for Pappas DeMartinez III. Kurt Heath is on the first team. He's hitting 392 on this offense. And then obviously on the pitching side, you got a pretty good 2-headed monster. Matter of fact, probably say 3-headed monster with the NE10 selections. Pat Heber is your first team all NE10 selection. He's 8-0 with a 4.2 ERA. Sam Beliveau, who's the 3rd team selection, 9-2 with a 4.30 ERA. And Zach Egenbrod, 8-2 with a 4.60 ERA. That's a pretty good rotation for that team. And then to go to the 4 seed, Wilmington. Wilmington, 39-15, 25-8 in the CACC. They were the regular season and tournament champions. 2nd consecutive CACC tournament title. It's their 12th overall tournament appearance and 12th overall CACC title under head coach Brian August. Looking for that first time to get into the national tournament, the World Series, and carry North Carolina as some of the key guys that they have on their offense. Well, you obviously got to talk about how they swept both the Coach of the Year, the Player of the Year, and the Pitch of the Year. Starts with Tyler Pirung, who has 40 stolen bases. He's hitting 400 on the season with an OPS almost at 1,100. Another guy to look out for is Cam Trago, who has 13 doubles, 12 home runs, 54 RBI, 364 with an OPS over 1,000. And on the pitching side, mention, when you want to talk about guys who have wipeout stuff, talk about Scott Boardman, who's the pitcher of the year in the CACC. He's 6-0, 7 saves. He's got a 1.63 ERA and a .99 WHIP, 55 1/3 innings. That's the guy that's going to come in over 18 appearances. He's going to throw multiple innings this postseason. So Excited to see how that pans out for Wilmington. Other guys to keep note of: Chase Fleming. He's 7-1 as a starter, 56 and 2/3 innings with a 3.18 ERA for Wilmington. And their challenger, fifth seeded Goldie Beacon, Tom Riley, fifth NCAA tournament appearance in the last 6 years. Still looking for their first World Series appearance, but they did reach the CACC championship final for the first time in program history. And it starts offensively with a few guys, but do want to mention the higher end guys. So Roman Keith is a second team all conference. He's hitting 313. He has 9 home runs, 50 driven in, and then their batting average leader is Jacob Macy at 333 with 13 doubles, 6 home runs, and 46 driven in. But also Bobby Stewart, who has a perfect 41 for 41 in stolen bases. Really impressive there. Then on the pitching side, you have to talk about Connor Blentz, who's a first-team all-conference selection. He's 5-3 with a 3.05 ERA over 73 and 2/3 innings. Corey Williams has a 3.29 ERA. He's 7-2 over 76 and 2/3 innings. He's also on the first-team all-conference selection. Then out of the bullpen, a myriad of guys, but Zach Davis has made starts, Nate Miller has made starts and come out of relief. 2 guys to mention for there. So that's the Bentley side of the bracket. And then we go to the Malloy side of the bracket. Malloy just dominated the ECC. They went 39-9, 26-4 in the ACC, and they got a three-peat by winning the regular season title and tournament title. It's their 5th in the last 6 years as well under Joe Fucarino. And, well, they did pretty well in the all-conference team. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different players on all-conference first team. That really speaks to how good this team has been this season, as we can switch over to that other side of the pod here. Malloy, that 2 seed. So Malloy, 6th NCAA tournament appearance. They're still looking for that first World Series appearance, and they've gotten on the cuffs quite a bit. But talk about this team and their all-conference selections. You got Jeremy Taggart, Sean Welsh, Ryan Sanchez, Steve Mulqueen, all offensively. So those 4 guys, it's highlighted more by Sean Welsh, who was the player of the year in the ECC, 413 average, OPS over 1,200, 16-17 in stolen bases, double digits, home runs and doubles, 57 driven in. And you got Steve Mulqueen, the other top guy, 375 average, 1,100 OPS, 12 doubles, 11 home runs, 49 RBI, 11-13 in stolen base on the pitching side. Your pitcher of the year was a preseason All-American too, Jaden Sill, 2.59 ERA, 7-1 record, .99 WHIP, 73 innings. And you got other guys who can pitch really well. J.C. Kiss and Mike Knapp each have a 3.38 ERA and are both 8-1. Mike Knapp has 4 complete games. And then out of the bullpen, again, another first-team selection, Jade Patel, 6 saves, 2.10 ERA over 15 appearances. So they will take on the 2 challengers there in the 3 and 6 game, which is Southern New Hampshire and Felician. Southern New Hampshire, a storied program, obviously. This side of the bracket has, since 2021, has represented East Region in Cary, with Southern New Hampshire going each year from 2021 to 2024, and then Felician in 2025. Southern New Hampshire, they won the NE10 regular season, going 40-12 and 30-6 in conference play. They fell in the tournament final with Bentley under head coach Chris Shank. It's their 13th tournament appearance in the last 14 years. I mentioned those 4 straight World Series appearances from 2021 to 2024. So some of the highlighted players here, you got Casey Comiskey, Shane McNamara, Jake Pisano, a couple offensive players, and then Zach Whitney and Jack Davis. Pitching-wise on first team. Second team, you got Mark Vucsko, J.R. Bozek, and Dakota Britt, as well as Jake Lapham on the second team. And so we'll talk a little bit about there. Pisano hit 403 this season, 75 driven in, 18 doubles. Dakota Britt, 386 with 14 doubles. Then Casey Comiskey, how about this line for not only for a first team all conference player, but for a shortstop? He's hitting 362, has 15 doubles, 18 home runs, 62 driven in, and that is beyond impressive what you see out of there. Shane McNamara hit 349 with an OPS over 1100. He's got double-digit doubles and home runs. Same for Joel Valera, 313, 13 doubles, 10 home runs. So a lot to spread around for this New Hampshire team. And then obviously on the pitching side, mentioned Jack Davis. He's all in relief, 22 appearances, 58 innings. He's 9-3 with a 2.33 ERA. Then you got Zach Whitney, a 3.58 ERA, and he's 6-2 with 13 appearances, 12 starts over 71 innings. And then you got Jake Lapham and Parker Lindrum, both 6-1 on the season, over 64 innings. So a lot to be positive about for this team. And, when it comes postseason time, Southern New Hampshire's a really hard team to beat. But their challenger on this end is the team that represented Cary last year, and that's the Felician Golden Falcons. And a lot to talk about there is they have one player on the first team all conference, and that's Jose David Medrano. And of course, Luis De La Cruz, Bryce Curry on the second team. So talk a little bit there. But Luis De La Cruz hitting 376 with an OPS over 1100, 19 doubles, 12 home runs, 63 RBI. And then we mentioned Jose David Medrano, 331 average, 12 doubles, 36 RBI as that utility player. As well on the pitching side, not necessarily what you'd want from Felician, but Max Weber is the starter, and despite a 6.46 ERA, he has 63 strikeouts and 54 1/3 innings. But when he's on, he is on. Then you got guys like Brandon Ling, with a 1.20 ERA over 15 innings out of the bullpen. Aiden Denton, 29 2/3 innings, a 3.34 ERA as well. And Andrew Gendy, 3.95 ERA over 43 1/3 innings. Gavin Enright, who leads the team with saves, with 5. He's got a 5.06 ERA. So a lot of bullpen options, and expect for Chris Langen's team, who made it to Cary last year, to kind of do the same, to use some of these arms and get there and try to get back to the World Series. So that, in a nutshell, breaks down the East region. For Bentley's bracket, starts Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Goldie Beacom and Wilmington University, and then the loser will play Bentley at 2 o'clock. Same goes for Malloy's bracket. Felician and SNHU will play at 11 a.m. Eastern. Loser will play at Malloy at 2 o'clock. But that's the East region. 6 teams vying for their chance to represent the East region in Cary, North Carolina. Previewing the Southeast Regional, a lot of loaded teams, and to help with that preview, we have Southeast Region writer Alex Pearce. Alex, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Robert?
Oh, doing great. Ready to talk postseason baseball and talk about the 8 teams within. What a loaded region. Crazy to think that the team that won this region last year, not even in the tournament, despite a pretty good record. But here we are with the 8 teams. North Greenville is your 1 seed. Catawba's your 2 seed. Wingate's your 3 seed. North Georgia's your 4 seed. Francis Marion 5th. Young Harris 6th. Belmont Abbey 7th. And Lander 8th. And we'll start over in the North Greenville bracket, a team that has hosted now for 7 of the last 8 tournaments. A team that was 47-10 overall, 28-5 in Conference Carolinas play. The regular season champions, and they ultimately fell in the championship game to Young Harris. But talk a little bit about North Greenville.
So we've got obviously a good offensive program, historically good. C.J. Dean kind of leads the way. He's hitting 404. Josh Folks, he provides some thump. He's got 18 doubles, 21 jacks, 80 RBIs. Just some length to that lineup, and on the mound, they're probably just as good. You got obviously Matty Brown, really good left-hander, and then Bennett Reamer he's 7-0 to join Matty Brown's 8-3. That's a pretty solid start to your rotation there with your 1-2, and then the bullpen is just filled with dudes. I mean, they came here and swept us. I mean, Ben Lycum looked like he belonged on a major league field that day. Wyatt Evans has been solid. You got Caleb Cox down there, Caden Roach. I mean, just guys on guys they can turn to, which is in a regional format. It just run them out there and come back the next day, and it's like you never get a great look off a guy, and then you start to feel like you feel good against a guy, and here comes another guy that's pumping low 90s with a slider, and they make it tough on you.
They sure do. I mean, you mentioned some of the firepower they have. I mean, think about C.J. Dean, Josh Folks, both guys on first team all-conference Carolinas. Matty Brown, another guy. We even talk about Connor McKee, who's the freshman of the year in Conference Carolinas. Like, they have so much depth, and, yeah, this is a team under head coach Landon Powell that year in, year out, they are expected to have this kind of year and expected to kind of be the team out of the Southeast Regional. As they last made the World Series in 2023, but the year prior in 2022 they were national champions, and I'm sure that's the expectation for the Trailblazers of North Greenville as they will take on their opponent Lander, the team that won the Peach Belt tournament. They were on the outside looking in, so they had to win the Peach Belt tournament, and they sure enough did, going to Dahlonega against North Georgia, going 2-0, 36-19, 20-10 in Peach Belt play. And what an interesting story it is for Lander, because Nick Pop, their head coach, wasn't their head coach at the beginning of January. So their previous head coach, Jason Burke, took a job with the Washington Nationals organization, and so he was kind of thrown in the fire as the interim head coach. And sure enough, hey, they repeated what they did last year by becoming tournament champions. And their style of offense is actually quite crazy, Alex. I'm sure you see that nugget there. They have the hit by pitch record. They've had 176 hit by pitches in just 55 games.
That's, I'm assuming, a big thing Nick Pop brought over from Belmont Abbey. They're always up near the top of the leaderboard in hit by pitches, and I'm sure he's instilled that in those guys. And Lander, to their credit, even before Coach Pop was there, they were always up there. I remember when I played, they had a guy that broke the single season hit by pitch record. So it's one way to get on base. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and with all those guys, like, I can tell you the hit by pitch totals. The leader, Zach Coart, who hit a big 2-run home run in game one of that best of three against North Georgia to help them win 6-4. He has 24 hit by pitches. How about that? And then not only that, but 27 strikeouts. So he has almost as many hit by pitches as he does strikeouts, and that's just impressive there. Oliver Zahn, who has 13 doubles and 10 home runs, 52 driven in, another guy that's pretty good. And to talk about some of their first team all conference guys too, you have to go to the bullpen with Joshua Sanchez too. A really good guy in this bullpen for Lander, as he's got a 3.78 ERA. He has 27 appearances. That's quite a few appearances for a team that hasn't even started regional play. 47 2/3 innings, 3 saves, and then you have your rotation of Jake Larson and Jake Monroe as two guys who have plenty of innings, both 80-plus innings, and then Evan Demurius is a kind of a swingman guy, 24 appearances, 2 starts. But a lot of their offense predicating just getting on base and wreaking havoc. And for this Lander team, like, they can do it. They have their 5th tournament appearance. Their last was last year, playing in a Catawba bracket. And while they've made a World Series, their last one was in 2016.
It's not really the firepower that North Greenville has, but when you're playing in that park, I mean, just it plays small, and guys run into it and they can run some over the wall. I'm hitting 299 as a team. They're not chopped liver. They got
Absolutely
a handful of
not.
guys hitting over 300. You mentioned Zahn, kind of the leader in the clubhouse there. 13 doubles, 10 jacks, more walks than Ks. Got a little bit of team speed too. 99 bags. Should be a good matchup for North Greenville. Be curious to see how that game plays out.
Yeah, and especially in game 1 and 2. Like, obviously, if you're Lander, hopefully you have Joshua Sanchez in that game, because that typically means you're in a good spot. So that's the first game of the North Greenville bracket. The other game is the 4th-seeded North Georgia Nighthawks and the 5th-seeded Francis Marion Patriots. We'll start with North Georgia. You know, they won their bracket in the first round of the tournament. They lost twice to Lander in the PBC championship, but with a 41-14 record and 26-4 in Peach Play, that was enough to get their regular season title back-to-back under head coach Nolan Belcher, who's came over from Georgia College. So it's first season with the team, but it's their 5th tournament appearance, and man, do they have some firepower as well.
Come in hitting 326. Ben Hamaker, leader in hits, he's got 88. And then Kyle Robish is hitting 386, 12 doubles, 63 home runs as a team. Got, let's see, 3 guys with 38 plus walks. So one of those Highland-based teams. And then you look at the rotation. It'll be interesting which guy they turn to first. I mean, you got 2 legit starters, Matthew Hurd, Andrew Duvall. They're a combined 17 and 3 for 168 innings. So guys that have been out there and got experience. And either one is probably 1A, 1B situation. So it'll be interesting which one they turn to.
Yeah, and either way, you got to like your chances with either pitcher. And obviously offensively, think about it this way. They have 8 different guys who are qualified for the minimum at-bats who are hitting over 300. So it speaks to this offense. And not only that, now they're going to a pretty hitter-friendly ballpark in there at Ray and B. Dillard Field. So be interesting to see that. I mean, another guy I want to highlight is Jake Streeter, has 17 doubles, 13 home runs, a guy who can hit for extra bases pretty well, leads the team in OPS, and who knows what could happen there in Tigerville, South Carolina. As you know, that's a really good team to go up against. But they got a really good team to go up against out of the Conference Carolina, something you're familiar with. And Francis Marion, who went 2-2 in the Conference Carolinas tournament, 42-12, 27-6 in play. But contrary to last year when they won the regular season title, they didn't make the tournament. They're in the tournament for the first time since 2012.
Yeah, it's good to see them back. I think this region and this conference is better when Francis Marion's good. Shout out to my good friend Jeff Jefferson. Spent quite a few years here at Pembroke with him. Just a great human, a great coach. And it's really no surprise to see what he's got going down there in Florence. Obviously, it helps when you got Charlie Bussey III on your team. I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves. 476, 98 hits, 19 doubles, 19 jacks, 55 walks, and only 19 strikeouts. Oh, and also he stole 39 bases. I mean, it's what do you do with that guy? I mean, we in our series down there, we contained him probably the best you can really ask for. I mean, he hit some balls really hard at some guys for some loud outs, and we had a couple singles and some walks. And even then, I mean, they still took 2 out of 3 from us. It's not just Charlie. I mean, they've got Ethan McAnally. He set the single season home run record. I think the RBI record too, 20 home runs, 88 RBIs. Riley Orr in that lineup, 30 extra base hits, 78 driven in. Will Durrell. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's you get through Charlie and you get him out, and it's like you can't feel good about it because you got so much firepower coming up behind them, and it's tough. They're a tough lineup to get to run through.
Yeah, they certainly are. And Bussey, too, during the Conference Carolina tournament, broke the all-time single-season record for most runs in a season. And now he's currently at 106 and looking to climb more. But, yeah, that's going to be a hard offense to beat, especially, again, mentioning it in Tigerville, South Carolina. But then On the pitching side, you got a guy who's pretty successful, most wins in Francis Marion program history in terms of Robbie Jordan, who's 10-2 this season with a 4.52 ERA. And then, when it gets close towards the end of the game, Jeff Jefferson will roll out Hafet Martinez Delgado, who has a 5.01 ERA, 17 appearances, 5 saves, 4-2. But he's been that guy out of the back end all season long. And if once you get rolling to the 7th inning, because he's no stranger of throwing multiple innings, it's going to be his time to throw.
Yeah, I mean he's been solid out of the pen for him. I mean, they got 18 saves as a team, and it's spread amongst 10 guys. So I mean he's got quite a few guys that he feels comfortable with at the back end there. Owen Powell gives you some length out of the pen. Charlie Bonds, I saw him. He hadn't pitched much, but he was really good in a conference tournament. Threw up a bunch of zeros, let him get back in that game against Erskine. Aiden Palmer, pretty good left-hander there. He's got some electric stuff when he's on. Then Garrett Long, he was their opening day starter, missed some time with an injury, but he was back. He was really good against Pembroke in the conference tournament game. So they've got some arms down there. They've got some options. So I think it's set up good for them to have some success.
Yeah, and we'll see how that plays out on the North Greenville side of the bracket. As now we'll go into – should have shared this the whole time, but hey, sometimes you forget. But we'll go on to the flip side, the Catawba bracket, where we have 2 versus 7, Catawba, Belmont Abbey. Belmont Abbey getting an at-large bid, but first for Catawba, 2-seeded. Hosted again, 16 tournament appearance, three consecutive. Hosted again last season as a 1-seed, but this time now as a 2-seed under head coach Jim Gant. They won their side of the bracket in the SAC tournament before losing in 3 games to Wingate in the SAC tournament championship series. Won the regular season title, the 29-4 record in SAC play, and 42-11 overall. But with Catawba, again, just this is kind of the norm for them. Similar to North Greenville, these are kind of the expectations to be a great team and make a deep run into Cary.
Just a model of consistency. Catawba, just for my time in this region, just they're just going to be a really good college baseball team. I mean, it's fielding 983. They're not going to beat themselves. I mean, if you hit the ball at somebody, you're going to be out. And then the way they play, they're not going to gorilla ball the ball over the wall. I mean, just really good offensive approaches and good hitters. I mean, hitting 331 as a team. 2 guys in double-digit home runs. Starts with Brandon Crabtree. That guy's – I hated seeing that guy at the plate when Pembroke played him. He's hitting 435, 22 doubles, 14 jacks, 41 walks against 13 Ks. Just – I mean, the guy's a monster at the plate. Jake Dunlap hitting 390. Logan Dyer at the top of the order, 389, 40 walks, 14 Ks, setting the table for him. Then you got Sam Hunter at 362, just a bunch of good college baseball hitters. And then on the mound for him, they got probably one of the best back-end guys in the country, Joe Burleson. He's 3-1 with a 2.12, 11 saves and 22 appearances. Just a guy they can run out there, feel pretty confident about. Then on the mound, a 2-headed monster themselves. Casey Googe and then Colt Wilkins have both been good. They're 17-3 combined this year. Almost a strikeout an inning for both guys. Then you got out of the pen. Seth Sharp is their dude. I mean, 29 appearances. I'd have to check the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that leads the country 9-1 in 47 in the third. Calvin Douglas has been good. Just, I mean, guys throughout the lineup and in the pen. I mean, it's not a huge roster. Coach Gant's got his guys. He relies on it, and he goes to them, and he trusts them, and it pays off for him.
It certainly does. And, I mean, you have a pretty good team when you can sweep your conference awards. Casey Gouge, the pitcher of the year, and then Brandon Crabtree, the player of the year, as well as Jim Gant being the coach of the year. But you have Colt Wilkins on your first team all-SAC team. You have Joe Burleson, first team all-SAC team. And, yeah, like you mentioned, Alex, when things get tough, Jim Gant's going to roll out number 25 in the bullpen no matter what. 11 saves, But again, 22 appearances and 34 innings, so he's good for multiple innings to try to keep either shut the door or keep the team in the game. But either way, again, a team that's modeled for success, a team that is modeled to play well. It's some other first team all SAC team guys that are on there. Jake Dunlap, you mentioned, and then Sam Hunter as well for this Catawba squad as they take on a team in Belmont Abbey, who was the Conference Carolinas Tournament champions a year ago. They went 2-2. They felt a little nervous going into after they lost, going into trying to see, are we safe? They got bumped up they got bumped up to 7, and ultimately they stayed there. So Catawba, their 4th tournament appearance in their last 5 seasons, and they're trying to replicate what they did in 2009 and made it to the World Series.
Yeah, this another great offensive team in this region, hitting 348 as a team. Caleb Bird's the leading hitter in average, hitting 423, 18 home runs. And then you got Joe Whitaker, who if Charlie Bussey's not in this conference, he's probably the player of the year. 418, 18 doubles, 23 jacks, 85 driven in, more walks and strikeouts. Just a really good player and a really good hitter for that Crusader team. Matthew Fattore, talk about hit by pitches in Belmont Abbey. He's leading them in 42, which the last I checked, he was 10 above the second place guy in hit by pitches in the country. Jacob Steinberg has been good, 18 doubles, hitting 366. He's got 33 walks to 12 Ks. Just another good lineup with some length, and it's going to be tough to navigate that lineup. And then on the mound, another 2-headed monster. You've got Drew Stigura, Conference Carolinas Pitcher of the Year. He's 9-0 with a 2.95, and then Spencer Cipro 10-0 with a 3.2. So they're set up really well to start the regional. Maybe not as much firepower in the bullpen as like North Greenville, but they've got quite a few guys with double-digit appearances, so they got some options they can match up with there. Wyatt Clark's been good. He's got 4 saves with 3.86. Ethan Yarborough 7-0 out of the pen on 24 appearances with a sub-4. MJ Doan, another guy with 20-plus appearances. So they got some guys they feel good about and guys that can come in after Sticker and Cipro if they don't go CG on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, that's crazy to think about. When Segura, Cipro, or Yarborough are the pitcher of record, they haven't lost. They're combined 26-0 when those 3 guys are the pitcher of record. So you got to like your chances if you're head coach Chris Henderson, a team that really has done so well the last couple of years, and a team that is looking to make some noise because they're just going to be a tough team to beat. They're going to be scrappy. And, when, you mentioned it with Joe Whitaker, I mean, 418, almost a 1,400 OPS, almost 20 doubles, 23 home runs. Just want to mention it again because, like you said, if it weren't for Charlie Bussey, he'd be the player of the year. And, I mean, he's probably in the mix for small college baseball player of the year if it wasn't for Charlie Bussey. But, it creates that chaos. But either way, doesn't matter who Belmont Abbey plays, with their offense, with their pitching staff and how good they've been, you feel like, yeah, we got a chance to beat anyone. As we go now to the 3 versus 6 matchup, and it's 2 teams that won their respective conference tournament titles. We'll start with Wingate, 39-18, 24-9 in the SAC, and they lost game 1 to Catawba in the best of 3 last weekend, but turned around and won both games of a doubleheader to win the SAC tournament and get an auto bid under head coach Jeff Gregory. It's their 10th tournament appearance. It's their 4th in the last 6 years, and, well, they're trying to replicate what they did in 2021, their lone World Series appearance. But, matter of fact, in 2021, they won it all. They lost the first game, and what a story it was. They come back, win 5 games in a row. Remember it vividly. Brody McCullough beat Southern New Hampshire, throwing 121 pitches over 8 innings that Tuesday. And then Friday, he came out of the bullpen against Angelo State and threw 95 pitches over 6 innings. Then it ended up with Sam Broderson throwing 5 no-hit innings against Central Missouri in the national championship game to win it all. But man, that was a story. And Wingate now back. They missed the tournament last year, but now, hey, they're back in it.
Yeah, sounded like a broken record, but another really good offensive team in this regional. Jalen Evans leads the way, 423. He's one of 4 guys that have 80-plus hits. Tanner McCammon, 22 doubles, 20 jacks. Ben Karpowitz, 8 doubles, 22 jacks. Bowen Powell, as a freshman, coming in and hitting 372 in that league is super impressive. He's got 17 doubles with 12 jacks. And Jake Corville, 366. Then you got Reed Benamati, the freshman. He's 24-25 on the bases, hitting 300 as a freshman in that league. And then Gavin Grapuso, 284, but 61 walks against 40 strikeouts. Just a great guy to set the table at the top of that lineup. And then you turn to the rotation. Chad Harvey is our ace. He's 9-0 with a 3.61. He's got electric stuff. He can beat anybody when he's on. JD Little also has 15 starts. He's got a 6.75. And then out of the bullpen, they've got Carson Starnes leads him in appearances, 25. He's got a 4.85 ERA, 2 saves. I think Carson Morton also has 2 saves. Parker Jensen with 3 saves. So they got a handful of guys down there that can go at the back end. And another guy, Jet Thomas, has been really good at the end of the regular season and leading into the conference tournament. Got the win against Catawba and that clincher there in the SAC tournament. But 4-1 with 4.75 and again been really good as of late.
Yeah, they certainly have been really good. And the biggest question is, in a park like Newman Park, which is not very hitter friendly compared to other parks, how can this Wingate offense perform? And certainly they can definitely perform. They have 3 guys who have over 20 stolen bases. So that could be another way their offense can generate runs by getting on base and stealing bases, wreaking havoc there if the power department isn't there this weekend in Catawba. And yeah, like you said, Chad Harvey, is a preseason All-American for D2 baseball. And, the stuff is there. And if he's on, like you said, Alex, that's going to be a tough guy to beat on a given day. But, in terms of tough, let's talk about the tough Young Harris lineup of a team that just it doesn't matter 1 through 9. I know we were texting each other in the before the tournament talking about how hey, if you get all these 7 guys out, you'll be fine. And that's most of their lineup anyways. But 39-16, 24-9 Conference Carolinas play. They went 4-1 en route to their first Conference Carolinas tournament title in program history since joining the conference a couple of years ago under head coach Stephen Wagner. This is, funny enough, their 3rd straight season in the tournament. And matter of fact, they've been in Catawba's bracket 3 straight years in a row. So maybe the 3rd time's the charm here and they'll get out of it. But they're looking for their first World Series appearance in NCAA history. So they were a JUCO program prior to transitioning to Division II, I believe in 2011. But in junior college, they went to the World Series in 2007.
And to close out the regional, obviously another good offensive program, especially this year. We hit 354 as a team, and they came to Pembroke and swept us and looked like a World Series type offense that weekend. I don't know if we have enough time to go through all the guys, but Jack Enrico, 412, 20 doubles. Drew Bray at the top of the order is as solid as the leadoff manager you're going to find, 391, 50 walks to 20 Ks. Plays a really good third base as well. Jackson Morgan, 21 doubles, 15 jacks at 382. Carlos Martins plays a really good shortstop, hitting 377 with 16 doubles. Gio Hernandez, 367, 12 doubles, 11 jacks. And don't forget about Cade Smallwood, 358, 20 home runs, 96 RBIs. And then also Kiefer Contreras, 345, 18 jacks. It's when your worst hitter statistically is Johnny Smith, who's hitting 291 and is a really good hitter in his own right. You're doing something pretty good as an offense.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And what's crazy to think about is Drew Bray's average in OPS, right? 391 average, 1,106 OPS. He's a 2nd team all-conference player. And that just speaks to just how loaded this conference is in the Conference Carolinas. But, I mean, too, like Cade Smallwood, 96 driven in, there's an outside chance he could break the record. I think he needs 7 to beat the record of most RBI in a season. And, yeah, like I said, there's an outside chance that he could do it. But just having a guy like that, and he's your 6th best hitter in terms of batting average, like it just speaks to how good this offense is and how many guys that can get it done in multiple ways. Because, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be home runs, because all of these guys, maybe -1, have double-digit doubles. And it's not like, oh, they barely made 10. Like Hernandez lows with 12. Then you got Smith. You mentioned it's hitting 291. He has 14 doubles. Cade Smallwood, 15. Martin, 16. Drew Bray, 17. Enrico and Jackson Morgan, both over 20 doubles. Like, this offense can really, really get it done. Now it just matters, can the pitching get it done? They certainly got it done in the Conference Carolinas tournament. So will it translate here into the regional, you know, with guys like Cole Molina, who's 8-1 with a 4.67 ERA, and then Austin Ritchie, who's 4-1 with a 4.75 ERA. Then you got guys like Trey Griffin, who has 5 saves and is 3-1 with 3.8 ERA in the back end, and then Sam Neal, 18-2 with a 4.65 ERA. Or, excuse me, 18 appearances, 2 starts, 4-3, 4.65 ERA. Really depends on, you know, how successful can this young Harris team have, similar to what they did in the Conference Carolina tournament. If they do, oh, look out. That's going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah. And the thing about their offense is it allows their staff to not have to go out and dominate it and throw up zeros. I mean, it's you give up a couple runs and it's like, okay, we're a couple swings away from tying this game or taking the lead. I mean, it would have to feel good as a pitcher to know I don't have to go out there and strike everybody out and throw up a bunch of zeros, and I can give up, you know, 5 runs and still feel good with this offense heading into the back of the game with Trey Griffin at the end, 28 appearances. Been their dude out of the bullpen, and they got some other guys as well that have been solid. So, yeah, going to be another tough lineup to navigate, and should provide some fireworks in that regional.
It sure should. And, you know, both of these regionals will start Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So in the North Greenville bracket, it'll be Francis Marion against North Georgia, and then at 6 p.m. Eastern, Lander, North Greenville. Then in the Catawba bracket, 2 p.m. Eastern, Catawba will play Belmont Abbey, and then Young Harris will play Wingate in the nightcap. So Catawba, a big fan of being that team that plays first rather than waiting for the nightcap. You know, when you're a regional host, you get to decide, you know, if you want to play the first or second game. So Catawba's one of those teams that kind of bucks that trend of, hey, we're going to play first rather than playing second. And so for the Southeast region, this is just one of the toughest regions. Like I said, the 7 of the 8 teams in this region are ranked in the top 15 or top 15 by D2 baseball. So really makes it tough. Any of these teams really, like, you know, the reason why they're ranked is they have a real shot of not only winning this region, but possibly winning a national championship. So it remains to be seen, but it'll start Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Really excited for it. And thanks again, Alex, for coming on and talking about the Southeast region and just how loaded it is.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. That was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this regional and keeping up with it, and keeping track of how many home runs are hit this weekend.
Yeah, we might have a special home run tracker this weekend just for this regional. On to the South region, 8 teams will vie for their way to the national championship. And, well, the last 3 seasons, we've either gotten the national champion, or runner-up in this region. So we'll break down 8 teams that are within here. Your 1 seed is West Florida. Your 2 seed is Tampa. Your 3 seed is Rollins. Your 4 seed is Delta State. Your 5 seed is Lee. Your 6 seed is West Alabama. Your 7th seed is Trevecca Nazarene, and your 8th seed is Edward Waters. So we'll start in the West Florida bracket. They're the top overall seed talk a little bit about them. They were 39-13, 21-12. The GSC tournament champions. And they're coming off a super regional appearance from last year, eventually falling to the eventual national champion Tampa. And West Florida's trying to do what they did back in 2011, their lone World Series appearance. They went all the way to the World Series and they won it. And this is their final year in Division II baseball. So let's talk a little bit about the West Florida Argonauts. And obviously it starts with their player of the year in Zach Stokes, who's hitting a gaudy .435 with a 1,300 OPS, 20 doubles, 14 home runs, 41 driven, and he also has 10 stolen bases. That's a pretty big guy to have on your roster. Then, of course, first team All GSC selection, William Lybrook hitting .380, 34 driven in as well with 10 doubles. Another guy to mention on this squad offensively is Trent Kelly hitting .335, 832 OPS, 11 doubles, 31 driven, and he also has 10 stolen bases. On the pitching side of things, got a lot of really good pitchers too. A couple on the second team. So let's talk about Colton Dorsey, who's on the second team as a starting pitcher. He's got a 2.96 ERA. He's 8-2, 73 innings. And you got to mention Braden Rapp, who's done a little bit of both, starting and relieving. A 3.74 ERA. He's 7-0. But when it gets to the back end, you got one of the best, if not the best, closer in all of Division II baseball, and that's Mickey Sheets. 28 appearances, 14 saves, 42 2/3 innings, just 8 walks, and he's got a 1.05 ERA. So that makes it really impressive and a great guy to have on your back end as you navigate through this tournament. And their opponent will be none other than the lone SIAC member and the SIAC tournament champion, Edward Waters. And this is their first NCAA tournament appearance. They won the SIAC in 2024, but they were not eligible for the NCAA postseason. So this is their first ever NCAA tournament appearance. And boy, do they have a pretty good offensive player. It's the SIAC player of the year in Daniel Donaldson Fountain. 418 with an OPS over 1,300, 17 doubles, 19 home runs, 60 RBI, and that's 29 of 33 in stolen bases. And then you got to talk about his teammate, Dannon Smith, who's hitting 356, and he's got 45 stolen bases. So makes it a lot easier when you have guys like that who can really steal bases. And then Jordan Smith's another guy to highlight. He's a second team All-SIAC. Remember, he's hitting 369, and he's 16 of 21 in stolen base attempts. On the mound, on the flip side, you have Kaysen Sherlung, who has 2 saves, but 22 appearances, 1 start, 2.91 ERA, 4-1 record, 55 2/3 innings. Big bullpen man that you need for this squad. And on the flip side, pitching-wise, Tyler Pfefferman, excuse me if I butcher that name, he's 10-2 with a 4.01 ERA. He guarded first team All-SIAC honors, 85 1/3 innings pitched, 17 appearances, 15 starts. And then you also have your big closer, as in Ty Mitzel, who has a 2.17 ERA, a 0.83 whip, 6 saves over 29 innings. So that's the 1 versus 8 matchup, and we'll go to the 4 versus 5 matchup. And we'll go, well, mention Edward Waters, 33-19, 28-9. Delta State, they went 31-21, 20-13 in Gulf South play. They made to the Gulf South championship game. This is their 38th total NCAA tournament appearance under head coach Rodney Betts. 12 World Series appearances. Their last was in 2017, and they have reached the mountaintop back in 2004. They were the national champion. So let's talk about their. We'll go on the pitching side first. Just got to talk about Adrian Bird and the incredible season he's having. He's got a 1.45 ERA, a .99 WHIP, and he's 8-2 over 93 innings, 105 strikeouts. As he has become one of the best pitchers in all of Division II baseball. and he is the Go South Pitcher of the Year. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets Region Pitcher of the Year, or as you go further, quite possibly the National Pitcher of the Year. But Aiden Bird is a big pitching, and then Dawson Munzame, he's got a 3.03 ERA, over 29 2/3 innings, 6 saves, and a 6-2 record. Those are the big bullpen arms, and then you got Blake King as a starter, Mason Shropshire both as a starter as well. So piecing that together, and then offensively, you got some guys on this squad like Tucker Jones, Austin Estes, Austin Batts, Levi Lang. A few guys to mention that were all Gulf South Conference honors, but we'll start with Tucker Jones. He's hitting 364, 11 doubles, 9 home runs, 63 driven in, 31 of 31 in stolen bases. Levi Lang is hitting 344. He's got 62 hits. He's got 47 driven in as well. So that's the big offensive guys that they have. Estes is hitting 333. Austin Batts hitting 314. So they'll take on quite a familiar foe in Lee. Lee earned an at-large bid after a great season in the Gulf South. They went 36-17, 22-11 in Gulf South play under head coach Mark Pruitt. This is their 4th NCAA tournament appearance, all since 2021. They missed the tournament last year. They were in 24. Now they're back in. Still looking for that first World Series appearance. And well, they certainly got some bats too. We're going to talk about Landon Franklin, Luke Collier, Cody Turner as well. So let's talk about Luke Collier, who's hitting a robust 411 with an OPS over 1100, 16 doubles, 11 home runs, 69 driven in, 18 at 21 at stolen bases. Cody Turner is actually done on both sides of the ball, so I'll skip him momentarily. But then you got guys like Landon Franklin, who's hitting 343. Isaiah French, who has 13 home runs, the team lead, 335. But Cody Turner hitting 349 out of that center field spot. 12 doubles, 11 home runs, 54 driven in. And, matter of fact, he's one of your key bullpen pieces. He leads the team with 6 saves, 34 2/3 innings, a 4.15 ERA, 19 appearances, 3 starts for him. And then on the pitching side, you got guys like Evan Bloomer, Gage Shaver. Gage Shaver we'll mention first. He's a second-team All-Gulf South Conference member, 6-2 record, 4.37 ERA, 70 innings. But then Evan Bloomer's been your guy that's thrown innings, 91 2/3 innings. He's got a 3.63 ERA and a 9-0 record. So feel pretty good to have a guy like that on your team who has a 9-0 record anytime. So creates good opportunities there. And so that'll be the West Florida side of the bracket. Then we go now to the other side of the bracket, and that is Tampa. Tampa side of the bracket. They're the 2 seed. They are the defending back-to-back national champions. Head coach Joe Urso surpassed 1,100 wins earlier this month. This is their 40th tournament appearance and their 26th consecutive of tournaments that have been played. 22 World Series appearance, national record, 10 D2 titles, obviously, going back-to-back in 24 and 25. Can they complete the three-peat? That's the big question. No one has ever done that in Division II baseball, so forgot to put up the bracket, so excuse me for doing that. Talk about the bracket here. So Tampa, your number 2 seed, and now this is recorded before the Sunshine, all Conference Sunshine's 18 throughout. So we'll just highlight some really good players on this team. So it starts with Jordan Evans at the top. He's got 13 doubles, 7 home runs, 26 extra base hits, 44 driven in, and 231 plate appearances. He's hit 354. Braden Woodburn hit behind him, hitting 368 with 7 doubles and 8 home runs and 40 driven in. And then the big RBI guy is Yoander Irigoyen, 55 driven in, 13 13 doubles, 10 home runs. He's hitting 384. And on the pitching side, you got as good as a three-headed monster as anyone in the country. With your pitching staff, you got Robert Satin, who's your game 1 starter. He's got a 10-2 record with a 1.98 ERA. And then B.J. Bailey's 12-0 with a 1.93 ERA as well. And then to round it out, you got John Luke Blanton, who's 11-2 with a 2.89 ERA. All have thrown over 80 innings, so expect those guys to throw a ton. And then you got Luke Fiker out of the bullpen, who's a two-way player. 6 saves over 15 appearances, 26 2/3 innings with a 1.69 ERA. So really expect a lot of opportunities there for Tampa, and as they continue their title run and try to go a three-peat, which has never been done before. But they'll take on the team in Trevecca Nazarene. They've earned the first ever at-large bid in their second year as a Gulf South member. They were previously in the GMAC in the Midwest region, and this is their third NCAA tournament appearance, both in 2021 and 2024. They won the GMAC tournament to get in, and they will try to do what they did back in 2021, which is make the World Series. And make the World Series indeed when you have some really good offensive bats in this team. And it starts with Cade Martin, the first team all Gulf South selection, 13 doubles, 15 home runs, 43 driven with a 4.14 average and a 13.11 OPS as well. And then obviously it continues on with guys like Rylan Moses hitting 333, Cade Moore's hitting 331, Caleb Webster has double-digit home runs. But on the pitching side, then you got game 1 starter Logan Harrell, 8-4, 3.17 ERA over 88 innings. He's a second team all Gulf South conference selection. Then you got bullpen guys like Dawson Sweeney and Ryan Sweeney, both combined with 38 total appearances, 3 starts. Dawson has a 2.93 ERA, Ryan has a 3.40 ERA and 8 saves. So those two will be relied on quite a bit. Justin Lee as well, 23 appearances, 2 starts, 47 innings with a 4.60 ERA. Another guy that you expect to throw a lot. We'll go to now the 3-6 seed. Mentioned, Tampa being the national champion back-to-back years. This has been their kryptonite. The number 3 seed Rollins Tars. They ended Tampa season both in 2022 and 2023, and 2023 was the year Rollins was the national runner-up. So with that being said, let's talk about they made their 6 World Series appearances, 5 in Division II era. They've reached the postseason 3 of the last 5 years, again, first since 2023. But under head coach John Sjogren, they got some bats in. It starts with Colin Hughes, who's hitting 405, 14 doubles. He's got 10 stolen bases. Matt Mateo has 9 home runs, 7 doubles, hitting 341. And then you got Jimmy Tice, Joey Rubin, and Connor O'Sullivan, who have double-digit doubles. Michael Furry as well with double-digit doubles. So offense to the plenty, but another team that pitches the ball really well, a 3.82 team ERA. Noah Greenseed is as good as they come, 5-1 with a 2.74 ERA. Then you got Brett Dennis as well with a 3.01 ERA. He's 7-4. Then a lot of bullpen arms to go to. You got Ryan Taylor with 11 innings of 1.59 ERA. Colby Valley, who's got 2 saves and a 2.45 ERA. J.R. Struck, who leads the team is second on the team with 4 saves, 3.82 ERA. A.J. Seymour, 5 saves with a 4.78 ERA. So Rollins looking to play spoiler yet again for Tampa, as you got to expect. Tampa's the favorite in this region, but Rollins has experience of knocking them out of the tournament as well. But they'll take on a tough West Alabama team. Rollins, I should say, was 34-14, 22-8 as well. West Alabama, 34-15, 23-10 in Gulf South. They were the regular season champions in the Gulf South. This is They're gone back-to-back in tournament appearances under head coach Eric DeBose. It'll be exciting to see how this plays out as well. So the 6-seeded West Alabama Tigers, let's talk about some of their bats, and it starts with Rashad Robinson, first-team All-Gulf South selection, as he's hitting .318 with an OPS over 1,000, 11 doubles, 12 home runs, 21 to 23 in stolen base attempts as well. And then secondary on this team, Austin Thacker and Wayne Wilkerson are second-team Gulf South selection. So for Wilkerson, 346 average in just 78 at-bats. And then for who was it? Austin Thacker. He's hitting .310 on the season with 39 hits. So couple All-Gulf South team selections there. But their big strength, again, .383 ERA. This region can really, or this side of the bracket can really pitch it, especially with Tampa, Rollins, West Alabama, all in the top 25 nationally in team ERA. But Blake Westery, he's all first-team Gulf South and freshman of the year. 2.24 ERA, 8-1 record, 64 and a third innings. Then you got Colin Woodham, the 3.03 ERA, 5.3 record, over 65 innings. You got plenty of bullpen arms. Tyler Pearce, 2 ERA, .72 WHIP in 18 innings, 6 saves. And then you got Thomas Kirby, 2.63 ERA, 3 saves, 41 innings. So teams who could really pitch it in this bracket, as we'll then talk about opening times for both games. So for West Florida, they'll play against Edward Waters at 1 o'clock Central Time on Thursday, and then Lee and Delta State will follow at 5 o'clock Central Time. And then you have Trevecca and Tampa at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday, and then West Alabama Rollins at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. So just be sure to follow our regional hub and more, and share the brackets with you for each region and to see updated game times and who's playing who. So that breaks down the South region, 8 teams vying for their way to carry North Carolina. Previewing the South Central Regional, and today we have on a special guest, none other than a former friend of the show and a great friend, Mr. Will Conerly. Will, how we doing today?
Doing well. Appreciate you bringing me on for this South Central Regional preview, and I am grateful for that introduction as well. Happy to be talking about that, and happy to be covering and exploring what's happening in this regional, because there's a lot going on, and you've been doing some great coverage all year long, and I'm glad that you're continuing to flourish.
Hey, appreciate that, Will, but hey, it can't be done without you and everything in the background that you do. So, hey, we're excited, man now that's in that region, in that Arlington, Fort Worth area, really cool. And being around that, especially with a team like UT Dallas right there in your backyard. But nonetheless, we got 6 teams to talk about in the regional, and we'll talk about them now as I'll begin to share the first bracket. So 6-team regional, 3-team pods. And of those 3-team pods, the winners of those play in the super regional, and the winner of that goes to the World Series in Cary, North Carolina. But without further ado, let's start with the Colorado Mesa regional, where they're hosting both Lubbock Christian and St. Mary's. So without further ado, Will, let's talk about that.
Yes, and I think when we look at this regional, there's obviously a lot of ways you can slice it, but I think at the end of the day, the biggest talking point when you look at this piece of the screen, I think, just from a grand perspective, is that it does feel like it's going to be tough to beat Colorado Mesa in their barn with how good they've been all season long, whether you have followed the RMAC, whether you have followed the South Central region or just Division II baseball in general, I think there's a pretty clear understanding that they certainly have been one of the best teams in the country, top to bottom, all year long. And so I think that's a great starting point for this conversation, as we'll get into all the teams, of course. But I just wanted to throw that out there that it has been really impressive, the consistency that they've put together as a program. But even if you throw that out, just looking at this year in general, it is really impressive. And I think it's going to be a tall task for a couple of Lone Star Conference teams going up there and trying to win in their barn.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's impressive to say we've almost won 50 games prior to the regional. You know, they're sitting at 49-5. They had from February 8th to May 1, they won 41 straight against D2 opponents. Their only loss in that span was against D1 Utah Valley. They're going to be a tough team to beat. They actually lost their first game at home in the RMAC tournament against Colorado State Pueblo. So they're 30-1 at home. This is going to be really tough, and it gets even tougher when you have the RMAC player and pitcher of the year. Colby Felix, the player of the year, hitting 426, and OPS over 1,300, 26 stolen bases. He's got 17 home runs, 20 doubles, 64 driven in. He'll be a top piece of this offense. And then Jackson Eisenhower. Think about this, Will. Think the RMAC, very inflated offenses. The air is thin. So for a guy to have a 2.33 ERA in that conference is beyond impressive. And that's exactly what Eisenhower has. He's 8-1 with a 2.33 ERA in 58 innings. And it doesn't get any easier because, again, Caleb Reuter, a first-team all RMAC selection, he's got a 4.78 ERA, which, again, when you compare it to the RMAC, that's also great as well. And he's 6-0. So it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a tough team to beat in their barn.
It will be. And I do think, like, when you look at the numbers, you make a great point. And I think there's been so many years where their numbers are off the charts, and you do take them with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm sure Coach Hanks would tell you that as well. I mean, at the end of the day, different things are inflated. But even when you compare their offensive numbers, I mean, it is still off the charts what they have done, because it is one thing. I mean, to be hitting way above 300 as a team, it's just phenomenal what they have done. So I am intrigued to see if they can continue that production. 354 as a team, I believe, to be exact, which is third best in the country. But a 41-game win streak that they had was obviously something that you just don't see, right? And so they have been able to rip off victories, and they've done it in tournament formats where they just won the RMAC title. And I do think that they're going to be in a great position to be able to come out of their own region. I mean, out of this regional pod and try to advance to the supers, because a 31-1 mark in their conference play, that is something that's hard to do. And they're used to these environments as well. I mean, they've hosted 3 of the past 4 years now, and it has really been fun to see the story develop here for a guy like Colby Felix. I mean, just throughout his career, he's been such a staple in that lineup, and it is pretty cool to see that he's now the guy shouldering the load for this group, and it hasn't proven to be too much of a tall task for him. I will say that when we look at Colorado Mesa, and you mentioned their pitching, I do think that the biggest key in a regional like this for me would be limiting the free passes, because you're going to let up runs, you're going to let up home runs, you're going to let up extra base hits just because of you have a little bit of elevation in Grand Junction. But at the end of the day, Eisenhower's a guy who's done that. He's limited free passes all year long. He's 8-1, and I do think that that's going to allow them to go up, because these 3 teams are kind of interesting, where that 1 seed, not only you get the advantage of being at home, but you have that advantage as well of getting a scouting report in person, at least from that first matchup of St. Mary's and Lubbock Christian as well.
Yeah, and how this tournament format works for the 3-team brackets is the loser of that first game plays Colorado Mesa in the nightcap. And with data, ever since this 3-team bracket has begun for the super regional format, teams are 7-33 after that first game.
Wow.
And the only team, you and I know this because we were around, the only team to make it out of a regional after losing that first game in a 3-team bracket was the Quincy Hawks in 2022.
Wow. That was without Midwest region pod up in
Davenport.
And who was the 3 teams there?
It was Davenport, Northwood, and Quincy.
Northwood, okay. Yeah.
And so Quincy lost in extras to Northwood in that first game. They turn around and beat Davenport and then ultimately win that regional to advance to the supers.
And they're the only team to lose.
Only team to do that in the 3-team pod.
And the teams that have lost the first game have only gone on to even win one game 7 times. Like,
yeah, win that next game against the 1 seed.
Yeah.
So whoever loses that first game has a record of 7-33 after losing that first game. So it's tough. It is tough. And so to kind of close the book on Colorado Mesa, 18 straight tournament appearances since 2008. And then their last World Series appearance, they were the national runner-up in 2019, losing to Tampa. And then they, in terms of RMAC, 14th straight RMAC regular season title, 4th straight RMAC tournament title. And so for their challengers, we'll talk about the 4-seed St. Mary's and what a season they had. Up until the last weekend of the regular season, they had a chance of claiming the title. They won their first round of the Lone Star tournament against West Texas A&M, beating them 2 out of 3 games, and then they went 0-2 in the double elimination bracket under head coach Frank Kellner.
Yes, and I do think that what a season. Like, it's a winning season at this point for a team that has been recognized by many national publications, including this one, which, in my opinion, the most prominent. But also, you have the fact that, like, a team going into the season, I don't think that the expectation was that St. Mary's would be a team that would get an at-large berth, right? I mean, they obviously deserved it, and they had a great year, especially in that league. And I do think it shows that if you're one of the top teams in this conference, you're going to get a bid with just how this regional is formatted. And so I do think that they have proven this season that they can go up against tough competition. And a little interesting note is that they took 3 of 4 in Lubbock against Lubbock Christian earlier this year. So they have that to in their feather in their cap as well. But it is interesting when you're going up against a team. You've seen them so often. But yeah, 7th all time and first since 2015. And that 2015 regional was also in Grand Junction. So they've gone there before, obviously a whole different cast of characters, but what a moment. I think that's the starting point, is that this program definitely deserves some recognition for getting an at-large berth, because I don't think a lot of people expected that going in. I do feel like there's always a spot or two that gets claimed by a team that is on the rise, typically out of the Lone Star, just because of the fact that it is hard to judge other teams in the RMAC with how dominant Colorado Mesa is. You don't really know who else is good in the RMAC at times, but for a team that was about 4 games above 500 a year ago in the Lone Star Conference in St. Mary's, to come out this year and win 36 games in conference play and 38 overall, you got to tip your cap. And I think that's the starting point for St. Mary's.
Absolutely. And they were projected to go 6th in the Lone Star preseason poll. And again, they finished 3rd overall. And like I said, they had a chance of being the top team over the weekend and, possibly hosting the tournament in San Antonio. But yeah, like Will said, their first tournament appearance since 2015. They have made 2 World Series. 2012 was their last appearance, and then 2001. And matter of fact, in 2001 they won the whole thing. So, obviously a different cast of characters, like Will said. But let's talk about the cast of characters that St. Mary's has. A lot of it is not your prototypical Lone Star team, because typically, the good Lone Star teams can really hit. They have a 294 batting average as a team, which is good, not great, but a lot of their strength is on the pitching side, and that's mainly because they have 1, 2, 3 different starters who made the Lone Star All-Conference team, both second and third team. And so it starts with Derek Maples. He's 4-3 with a 3.61 ERA, and then Brandon Vasquez. He's 3.73 ERA, 2-2 record. Gabe Cook and Eric Taneri also making starts. So they have rotation depth, and I think that could potentially help them should they, play out of the losers bracket in that case. Or, like I said, if they were able to win one, then that helps them go a long way. I mean, if there's going to be a team that can pitch it in Grand Junction, aside from Colorado Mesa, it's St. Mary's being able to do what they can do with those guys that they have. Again, like guys like Gabe Cook and Eric Taneri, both 7-1 records, so they play pretty well when they throw. So gives them a chance to at least compete. And then offensively, Ashton Beard leads the team with a 350 average and a 1,020 OPS. Nobody has above 10 home runs. Their highest is Garrett Brooks with 9, who is also a Lone Star selection, third team.
Yes, and it's a great note on the small ball way that Frank Kellner's offense wants to run, the head coach for St. Mary's, who I believe third year with the program. He had so much experience. I think he was Temple College for a couple decades before he ended up getting this job, and he was a guy that he developed a lot of talent that went to the next level, and he is working with the pieces that he has in a mighty fine way. I mean, did you see their sacrifice bunt numbers? Those jumped off the page for me. They have bunted 51 times this year. So they're winning, like you said, in a different way. I think that mark is 4th best in the country. That just jumped at the page at me because exactly what you said. It is not the typical Lone Star / RMAC. Both those conferences play in a similar way where it's more offensive, but they're doing it in a different way. And it makes you wonder, is that an advantage for them because they have the ability to pitch, play small ball? They've shut teams out 3 different times this year, which I think is a really high number for anybody that plays in the Lone Star Conference. So I'm going to be intrigued to see if that type of play can hold up. And you mentioned limiting the walks. Well, they do that overall as a staff at a really high level. 3.94 walks allowed per 9. That's 34th best in the country. And so if they can throw strikes and get ahead of guys, keep guys off balance, and try to find a way to fight and try to find a way to get the guy over and get him in, they're going to find a way to be competitive. And they've continued to be on the rise under Frank's direction. From year to year, they've continued to improve. And those are the things you like to see for somebody trying to build a program from the ground up, so to speak. But it obviously has great tradition. But when you take it over and then you come in and make improvements, it gets people not only excited, but it also gets people thinking, man, San Antonio, Texas is maybe a place I want to take my talents. And he's obviously doing that for this program. You mentioned the Lone Star Conference Championship as well. Obviously, they took a bow out to Lubbock Christian when I mentioned the head-to-head, but obviously they have that series win from earlier in the year in their cap. So, I mean, to go play a team for a 6th time this year, that's going to be fun to watch. They obviously know each other well, and there will be no secrets on either side.
Yeah, and, in these type of tournament formats too, if the run scoring can be limited, I think that improves St. Mary's chances that tenfold, that much more, because just being able to play in those close games, that's what they want. Whereas, some of these other teams might want to just outslug you and being adaptable. If it's a low-scoring, close game, that's where St. Mary's can go in. So then we'll shift over to their challenger, which is Lubbock Christian, we mentioned already. They're 34-21, 31-19 in Lone Star play. They won the first round of the Lone Star tournament on the road at St. Edwards, effectively ending their season because St. Edwards was on the bubble for postseason play. They beat them 2-0, and then they went 1-2 in that double elimination portion. Again, their one win was against St. Mary's under head coach Nathan Blackwood, which fourth straight tournament appearance for the Chaparrals for Lubbock Christian, and then still looking for their first ever appearance in the D2 World Series. Last time they made a World Series was 2011, but they were a member of the NAIA.
Yes, and this is a team, I think over the last handful of years, Coach Blackwood has found a way to recruit just really good hitters. I mean, you want to come hit the ball, you want to come play in West Texas. I mean, just the names that he has got to come put a Lubbock Christian uniform on over the last handful of years has been impressive. They have some great pop. I think this team has a ton of pop, and it's not just one guy. They've got a lot of different guys that can put the ball out of the ballpark. I think overall this year they've got 5 different guys with 7 or more home runs. I think that'll play when you're heading up to Grand Junction. It's obviously a place where they have some familiarity with Colorado Mesa as a program overall dating back, but a team that won the first round of the Lone Star Conference, like you mentioned, again at St. Edwards, and then you see they've just continued to be consistent. I mean, to be in a tournament for a 4th straight year, Nathan Blackwood is looking for that marquee moment here this season. And he feels probably that this team has a great chance. Okay, St. Mary's, a team we're familiar with. We just beat them. We have a chance to then try to just go make it a best 2 of 3, because that's the mindset of the winner of that 4-5 game, is that we can try to just make this a best 2 of 3 series at the end of the day and try to go win a series on the road at Colorado Mesa, which will be a tall of a task as any, as we mentioned earlier in the program when we highlighted Mesa. But I do think that Lubbock Christian as well can put themselves in a great position if that offense can play like you would expect. Now, it's kind of 2 different styles, and I think styles create fights in this conference for sure. But because of the way that St. Mary's and Lubbock Christian have opposing styles, St. Mary's more pitching, Lubbock Christian more hitting. But in the postseason, a lot of the times you do see lower scoring games. Now, is that going to be the case in a high scoring environment at Colorado Mesa? I don't know. But I do think Lubbock Christian has the experience, because they've been there, that is a huge thing to watch when the moments get tight, which you would expect them to with a team playing another opponent for a 5th time, a 6th time now this season here in the postseason.
Yeah, and, with Lubbock Christian, too, they have a lot of gap-to-gap power. They have, when you mentioned 5 different guys with 8 or more home runs, they have 6 different guys with 10 or more doubles. So that, and with that elevation, who knows? Maybe some of those doubles translate into home runs there in Grand Junction. And I mean, it starts with Jorge De Los Santos, who's a first-team All Lone Star selection. He's hitting 346. The team leader with 51 driven in, and then you obviously got to mention Hudson Grace on the side, second-team Lone Star member, leads the team with 373 average and 1,099 OPS, and also 19 doubles. How about this for an extra base hit spread? 19 doubles, 7 triples, 7 home runs. So he can definitely spray the ball all around the yard, has a little bit of pop there. And he also has 27 stolen bases, just like his teammate De Los Santos. And that creates havoc. And then creating havoc is, assuming that they're going to throw Aaron Rubio. Aaron Rubio is a 3.05 ERA with 3 complete games for Lubbock Christian, which again creates a great pitching matchup for them on their side. So we say that St. Mary's has a better overall pitching staff, but when it comes to one game, might be evenly matched with Aaron Rubio on the bump, as he himself is a first-team Lone Star selection as well.
Yes, and then you've got Carson Dunn too, who he pitched against St. Mary's earlier this year, 6 innings, 3 runs allowed, but he's been really consistent in their rotation. I mean, you look at the record, 6-6 with a 4.88 ERA, but one thing you can say is he has been consistent and shown up and taken the ball every week. I mean, making 15 starts, that is impressive. To not have a sore arm in the middle of March one time, I mean, he hasn't missed a turn in the rotation, and I do think that that's going to be something to watch as well. But Overall, yeah, I mean, the extra base hits, you had me looking, you had me thinking 23 triples. I mean, this is a team that just has extra base hits all around. And I think Lubbock Christian every year, they're toward the top of the country in triples just because of the ballpark that they play at. You have the gaps, but yeah, and the ball can fly sometimes in West Texas like no other, and be tough to track down. And outfielders are running over for miles to try to get a baseball. But yeah, they have that extra base hit ability that they're going to be bringing to Colorado Mesa, and so that kind of puts a bow on that regional. And we look at another double elimination regional on the other side here in the South Central.
Absolutely, and to kind of close it off, so the Mesa Regional will start at 3 p.m. Mountain Time Thursday, Lubbock Christian St. Mary's, and then 7 p.m. Mountain Time. The loser of that first game will play Colorado Mesa. So now we go over to the other side of the bracket, which is UT Tyler's side of the bracket. They're 43-10, 40-10 in Lone Star play. They won their first Lone Star regular season title and swept their way to their first tournament title program history. So both first since joining the Lone Star in 2019 under head coach Brent Porsche. Their third straight tournament appearance. They've been back-to-back hosting bids. They went to their first D2 World Series last season. They finished 5th. And their last World Series championship was 2018 as a Division III program.
This is a program that deserves a lot of respect. I mean, to see what they did last year going to the World Series, I think they were a known commodity, right? At that point, I think it was kind of building up to last year. I mean, the last couple of years, they have been really good. I think they've been on the map for Diamond Sports as well, just for a while with what their softball program has done overall in Tyler, Texas. But at the end of the day, going to the World Series last year, that was huge. And I think coming into this year, there was no surprises, right? Everybody knew what Brent Porsche's team could do, that he knew how they could perform, and they rose to the occasion. I mean, to be able to win your first regular season and tournament title in the same year after you went to your first Division II World Series the year before, I mean, they are continuing to add hardware and milestones. And I think this is a very hungry bunch that feels that they have an incredible opportunity here to host this regional and find a way to navigate into the supers once again and try to go beyond. But to host in back-to-back years, I think that it gives all the fans in Tyler, Texas, a great deal of excitement because they know what to expect. The players know what to expect now. And you're welcoming in some pretty historic programs that we'll get to in a moment, but obviously a team you know very well in Angelo State and you saw very early in the season. But at the end of the day, UT Tyler, you have to tip their cap to what they've done the last couple of years, one of the more consistent programs in all of college baseball over the last couple of years. And they're looking to continue to build upon that success and perhaps reach greater heights after a trip to Cary, North Carolina a year ago.
Yeah, obviously that their goal is not to just, have that Lone Star regular season tournament success, but go back to Cary and go further and possibly, win the entire thing. They have a great chance there. And I mean, they have both the player and pitcher of the year, Cole Ketzner, who's hitting .374, 13 home runs, 13 doubles, 12 home runs, and 63 driven in. And then Julio Garcia, who's taken a huge step up, 2.40 ERA, 8-2. How about this, Will? 9 walks and 63 2/3 innings. That's a guy that commands the strike zone and has done it all year long. And you got to think of other guys like Colson Abel, a 1.96 ERA, out of the bullpen with 3 saves. And, fans who may remember Colson Abel, right? He was a member of the Lubbock Christian's pitching staff in 2024 before transferring to Lamar and then coming back to the Division II ranks, this time with UT Tyler. And then also, you got to think of a guy in Caden Copeland who's done pretty well, 3.61 ERA, who's 6-1. He was the preseason pitcher of the year for UT Tyler. So even though they had some roster turnover last year, they haven't missed a beat, and it's certainly going to be a team that's hard to beat in their own yard.
Definitely. And I mean, 315 as a team, that'll certainly play, but the pitching is where it starts for me, like you brought up. I mean, overall, as a team, to have a 391 ERA in the Lone Star Conference, I mean, it's almost unheard of to be how good they have pitched this year. And they've continued to recruit at a really high level because it's a lot of different arms, but they're still getting a lot of the same results. And that's getting outs and being efficient and limiting runs. And they've done that so well. And so you mentioned Garcia off the top, but yeah, 3 times he's gone the distance, has a save in there as well. And he's limited the long ball also. Only 3 home runs allowed this year in 63 2/3, and he's made 13 appearances and an 8-2 mark. So they've got guys that are playing well, and they obviously have guys that are playing well in the postseason. I mean, look at what Mason did in the Lone Star Conference tournament as well. I mean, I think he's got 3 straight games with 2 or more hits, and he's been producing in a big way this season. And obviously a guy who was a big part of their squad over the last year as well. So, I mean, that senior out of Rockwall, Texas is a guy that you definitely got to watch out for when you look at Mason and what he's been able to do, because he had a really good season. I think hit 333 last year and had a good mark. I think he got aboard a ton as a sophomore, and he's been playing quite a bit for UT Tyler in Caston Mason over the last handful of years, and he has been a standout and a staple for that lineup.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention 2 guys that really have performed under expectations, and Drew Schmidt and Bryce Jewell. I mean, Drew Schmidt was, the preseason player of the year. He hit above 400 last year, was just hitting everything in the tournament last season. Couldn't get him out. Now he's only hitting 284. Now imagine if he goes up to what he did last year. Like, this is going to be a really, really hard team to beat if all their guys are clicking. But still, like, even if some of their guys aren't clicking, there's other guys that step up, like you mentioned, Caston Mason as well. Like, other guys are able to step up and, do a job without needing their stars to continually perform. So that's the advantage there. And of course, like, now we've created some kind of a rivalry. Yes. Second year now of, having a UT Tyler playing Angelo State. Last year was in the Supers. UT Tyler beat them at Angelo State to go to Cary, but now Angelo State welcomes them in the regional. And yeah, like I said, Angelo State lost to UT Tyler twice in the Lone Star tournament. So there's some blood there. And, with Angelo State, they won 40 games. There was a point in the season where the Rams were only a couple games above 500, and you're starting to think, maybe this is not the Angelo State of old. But of course, they turn it on late. They go 12-1 in their last 13 regular season games just to get in, and then they play really well, and then they run into the UT Tyler in the tournament. But the funny thing is, I'd like to mention this too, is, in the Lone Star tournament, they beat St. Mary's 3-2, but they got no hit, and somehow they were able to win that game. So they still find ways to win games. And, under Kevin Brooks, obviously the success, breeds no saying, but 8th straight tournament appearance. They have gone to the World Series 4 straight years from 2021 to 2024, winning the 2023 national title. So this is a team that is no shortage of postseason success.
Not at all. And I do think that when we look at the matchup overall and you look at UT Tyler, it'll be interesting if Angelo State were to lose, or if they were to go meet UT Tyler, how UT Tyler and how teams navigate that first game against a team that is on the brink of elimination, because obviously Julio Garcia has been one of the best pitchers in the country this year. And he went 4 innings, 3 earned runs allowed against Angelo State. He only had 2 other games the entire year where he allowed 3 earned runs, only 17 the entire season. So obviously it'll be interesting to see if he meets them again because he has just been so dominant. But when we look at Angelo State overall, I mean, just a great deal of respect for Kevin Brooks because he has found a way. He has really mastered, I think, the transfer portal, but he's also mastered getting great recruits to make an impact for him early. I think he's really blended that well. And it's something you have to do as a high caliber program because you have to understand, and this is not just talking about Angelo State, but it's talking about any high-level program, that if you have a freshman or if you have a sophomore that is putting up player of the year numbers, they may not be there in the coming year. So he has withstood, and I think really has done a great job of keeping great talent, but he's also brought some in, and he's understood that, man, I can get high-level impact guys that are young to come in and make a big impact. But obviously Austin Beck is anything but young, and he's a guy that you have to talk about, a redshirt senior out of Allen, Texas, that has 7 home runs, 59 RBIs, hitting 350, and he's one-dotting right now. Even though he's got 7 home runs, he's got a 1.022 OPS, and that really jumps off the page for what he's been able to do, really just fortifying this offense. And he's been an everyday guy. I mean, he's played in all 57 games for this Angelo State team. And they're a team that, like you said, just understands how to win. And it's not necessarily because of the 9 guys that are on the field. They're all great. But I think it's also just a big part of the tradition. Like when you put on that uniform, you understand we have rings that are expected to be captured by our team because of the people that have come before us. And he has continued to get guys that buy into that culture, that understand what they need to do, and they have a culture of just winning ball games, finding a way to get victories, and that is the most important thing really at all times, and especially at this time of the year.
Yeah, and to continue on back too, he's top 5 in the country in stolen bases with 47. And not only that, but earlier this season he broke the all-time Division II record for runs scored in a career. So that, when you talk about tradition, and there's a guy that it breeds tradition with Angelo State as part of this key cog of this offense. And then you obviously got to talk about guys like Chase Penley, Brett Smallstra, guys who are, the backbone of this offense as well. And then, the one guy to highlight on the mound is Garrett Bauman, who has a 3.73 ERA over 62 2/3 innings. But how about this? 23 appearances, 2 starts. So that is a guy that is used heavily, and he's been used in a myriad of roles. He actually made his 2nd start in the tournament last week, and now he's probably expected to be the game 1 starter, but he's pitched in so many different roles. He's been a back-end guy. He's been a follower after an opener. He's done a lot, and who knows, like maybe come tournament time, you might ask him, hey, can you start for us one day? And then maybe 2 days later, hey, we need you to come out of the bullpen to get a big out, or, get some big outs.
Absolutely. And also too, I mean, when you mentioned Penley, and then he's manning the corner on the right side at first, and then you got Bush and Beck up the middle. That is an incredible combination. When you look at Peyton Bush too, I mean, a junior, you've got Penley, who's another redshirt senior from the Lone Star State because he recruits so well in the state of Texas. And then Beck, yes, I bring up his average, I bring up his OPS, he steals so many bases, and Austin Beck's been a part of 32 double play turns. I mean, that is a great up the middle defensive alignment that they have for Angelo, with Peyton Bush at short, and then you've got at second base Austin Beck, and it's a team that has turned almost more double plays than anybody in the entire country this season. So it will be interesting to see if they can continue to play rock solid defense. That's been a staple of their program overall. They've turned 52 double plays here this year in 57 games. So they're finding a way to turn 2, and that obviously helps their pitching. It helps their whip, which is top 30 in the country. And it just helps a lot of things at the end of the day when you can get 2 outs on 1 pitch. And they've been able to do that. And they've been a program that has really been consistent in playing great defense. And I think great defense, great pitching, limiting the walks, like doing the fundamentals, that's a thing that they've always been able to do, really no matter who they put out there. But now they've got some experienced seniors that are leading the way. And I do think that they feel that, yeah, we're going to hostile territory. We're going to a rival who's hosting this regional, but we have a shot, and we've got a good shot. And that's how they probably feel going into this one for the Rams.
Absolutely. And we'll go to the final team of this bracket and of this region, and that's MSU Denver, a team who we thought maybe was on the outside looking in, that lost to Colorado School of Mines, a team under 500 in the RMAC tournament. Thought that did them in, but that got them into the tournament at 38-16, 24-8 in the RMAC. They went 2-2. They're the lone team to beat Colorado Mesa in the regular season in RMAC play, as they won that thrilling game. I believe it was 12-11. And a lot of it was with their offense, especially with a guy by the name of Royce Van Dyne, who has 13 doubles, 13 home runs, 57 driven in. So he hit the go-ahead home run in that game. But fourth tournament appearance in the last 5 years, and you also got to think they're no stranger to Texas, as all four of those have been in Texas. The first two were in San Angelo, Texas. Now the last two have been in Tyler, Texas. So the Rocky Mountain Air is going to have to get adjusted to play in this style of offense, Will.
It will, but I don't know. What type of adjustment do you think Noah Wicks needs? I think if you're looking for adjustments, he doesn't need any. He's hitting 456 this year with a 1.299 OPS. And you mentioned 57 for Royce. He's got 58 RBIs and slugging 728. He's been hit 19 times. I know like the 456 average should jump off the page first, but that was just an outstanding amount of hit by pitches. And that's not the highest mark on the team. They've got a guy who's been hit 27 times, Marquise Abelhusen. I think I botched his name, but he has been hit 27 times. And so that is just an interesting note and nugget for you. But it's a team that at the end of the day, it shows that they get on base, and they get on base a lot, a 458 OBP as a team. And I do think that when you look at the Roadrunners and just from a grand perspective, and if you go back to the beginning and all we talked about Colorado Mesa and how good they are, to be able to take a game from a team that really didn't lose to Division II teams pretty much all year. I mean, they ripped off 40 straight wins against them. To be able to do that, I think we're going to find out at least a little bit how good Colorado Mesa is by the way that MSU Denver can perform against Angelo State. Like, what's the difference between them and the rest of the RMAC? And can they go and say, no, yeah, we did lose, but we took a game from Colorado Mesa, and now we're going into this Tyler, Texas regional, and we have a shot. And obviously everybody feels they've got a great shot when you get selected to a regional. And I do feel like, at least for both of these 3-team pods, like we're not just saying that. I mean, there is a clear favorite, I think, in Grand Junction, but I do think, like, at the end of the day, all these 3 teams, like it would be a little bit surprising probably if MSU Denver having to play Angelo and then beating Tyler twice. Yeah, that'd probably be a little bit surprising. However, I do think all teams feel like they've got a shot at the end of the day to go make some noise. And that's how you should feel if you've put together a good enough season to be able to get to this point. And I do think, like, with them getting in, it's showing respect to how good Colorado Mesa is. Like, how much did they weigh that one win? And honestly, just playing them, like, it helps your strength of schedule so much, even if you lose all 4.
Yeah, and it helps so much when you have 3 different guys who have a 6-1 or better record. Yeah. Starts with Alejandro Maltos Garcia, who's a 5.75 ERA, but 6-1. He's got 2 complete games. And then Jake Syverson, an all-RMAC selection, 7-1 with a 5.9 ERA. And then you got to go to the bullpen. 19 appearances for Carter Swan, no starts, 4.33 ERA, but he's also 7-1. So if those 3 guys are on the bump, you got to feel like you like your chances, especially if you see, when they're the pitcher of record, they do pretty well.
Yes, and if they can have that offense like you highlighted earlier, try to find a way to get that gap-to-gap power going, I mean, they are going to be a tough out. They lead the country in doubles. They've got like 10 guys with 10 or more doubles, it seems like. They've got 153 as a team. And yeah, they haven't maybe pitched the ball as well as they have hit, but that's to be expected when you just look at the numbers, understanding what conference they play in, as we've highlighted before. But when you lead the country in doubles, when they're toward the top of the country and hit by pitches, and they just find a way to get hits consistently, it's going to be tough. I mean, it is going to be tough, even going against a great Angelo State pitching staff. You don't feel like they're going to be held down. Like, they are going to find a way to get on base and create traffic. I think the question at the end of the day is going to be, can they pitch the ball well? Because the ERA as a team is close to 7. Yes, they have some good records, but those records on the mound, like you mentioned, a lot of it is because of the way that the offense has performed throughout the duration of this season, giving them a great position to be able to get up. But if they can score 10 runs a game like they have this year, they're going to have a great shot, because 10 runs a game is a top 10 mark in the country. It's also third best in their own league, so it shows you that there's a lot of offense out of the RMAC. But that is something certainly to watch, and that'll be a lot of fun to detail and cover.
Yeah, and it'll be a lot of fun to see what happens in this South Central Regional. Will it be Colorado Mesa? Will it be UT Tyler? Or will it be one of the 4 teams that are not hosting? We're here to find out starting Thursday, and the last thing I'll say for this is the UT Tyler bracket. 3 p.m. Central Time is when MSU Denver and Angelo State take on each other on Thursday, and then the loser of that game will play the nightcap against UT Tyler. Then the rest, again, will be determined based on the results of the first 2 games. But want to thank you for tuning in, and thank Will for coming on to talk about the South Central region. Really means a lot for you to come on, Will. And man, it's postseason baseball is right around the corner.
It is indeed. Appreciate you bringing me on, and really, really enjoyed it. Hope to do it again soon.
We'll close on the West region. 6 teams are in there, and it goes 1 through 6. The top seeded Cal State Monterey Bay, the 2nd seeded Point Loma, 3rd seeded Cal Poly Pomona, 4th seeded Cal State San Marcos, 5th seeded Northwest Nazarene, and 6th seeded Cal State San Bernardino. The auto bids went to Point Loma in the 2 seed and Cal State San Bernardino in the 6 seed. So we'll start with the Monterey Bay side of the bracket. 6 teams again and 3 team pods. Let's pull that up right now. As Monterey Bay will await their opponent. And we'll talk a little bit about them first. And then the times appear a little different from what you see on the screen in terms of Eastern Daylight Time. Actually, no, that is correct. Forgot about time zones momentarily. But Cal State Monterey Bay, another CCAA regular season title. Didn't quite do what they typically did in the tournament, but still a great season. 36-16, 21-11 in the CCAA under head coach Walt White, the CCAA Coach of the Year. Their 5th consecutive tournament appearance. Technically gets a 7, 2018 and 2019, since they didn't play in either 2021 or 2020. They're still looking for that illustrious first World Series appearance to the team that's been to 3 straight super regionals and just hasn't gotten over the hump there. Then so to talk a little bit about some of the top players, let's start on the pitching side with Andrew Coton, who's the CCAA Pitcher of the Year with a 3.13 ERA and a 9.1 record over 63 innings. And also you got in the rotation Daniel Flores and Hayden Hall, both with ERAs under 4.3 and 64 and 56 and 2/3 innings respectively. And you got Drew Aguiar, who does a little bit of both, 7 starts over 17 appearances, 4.96 ERA. He's got 5 saves, which leads the team. And bullpen-wise, Preston Kelly is a name Walt White might call in a 2.77 ERA, over 13 innings. And offensively, you got to start with a guy like Bobby Benavidez, Bobby Benavidez. And then on the second team, you guys got like Jason Delviar, Andrew Lehman, James Starkis. But we'll start with Starkis. 389 average, 1155 OPS, 19 doubles, 12 home runs, 55 driven in. Andrew Lehman's got a 342 average. Bobby Benavidez hitting 338 with an OPS over 1,000, 13 doubles. Jason Delviar, 324 average, 11 home runs, 13 doubles. Got some firepower for this team that's hitting 315 as well in a 4.87 team ERA. So Monterey Bay, again, a good team and a favorite in this West region, but they'll await a foe in Cal State San Marcos, who went 33-17, 19-13 in CCAA play. And if I remember correctly, they ended Cal State Monterey Bay's tournament run. So could be some bad blood there, but under head coach Jose Garcia, this is their second tournament appearance in NCAA history. Their first was 2024. So 2 times in 3 years, pretty good under head coach Garcia. We'll talk a little bit about some of their top guys. And the newcomer of the year was Zach Samoya, who hit 373 with a 13.25 OPS. He has 22 home runs, 76 RBI. And then you got Jake Larson, who's hitting 365 as well. Cannon King, 12 doubles, 13 home runs, 55 driven in, the 337 average, and OPS over 1,100 there. On the pitching side, you rely on Jack Clark. He's 7-1 with a 4.72 ERA. PJ Wendler, 9-3 with a 5.79 ERA over 70 innings. It looks like Garcia relies a lot on this starting pitching. Ben Pernetti's got a 5.86 ERA over 58 innings, and Luke Higgins is 3-3 over 52 2/3 innings there. Their big closer arms are Trevor Morgan and Zach Romero, who both have 3 saves. Romero has a 3.66 ERA over 32 innings there. So they'll take on the defending West Region champions, and they got their GNAC tournament title as well, coming all the way back, winning both games of a, if necessary, title game. Northwest Nazarene, 38-16, 25-7 in GNAC play, and while they have quite a bit in terms of major awards, they have the Player of the Year in Carter Walsh, they have the Pitcher of the Year in Corbin Talley, they have the Newcomer of the Year in Kyle Becker, and the Coach of the Year, Joe Schaefer. So again, looking to go back to the World Series for the third time since 2021. They were there in 2021, and they were obviously there last year and finished in the top 4 for final. And starts again, you have the Player of the Year in Carter Walsh. He hit 371, 21 doubles, 35 of 39 stolen bases. You have Gavin Brubaker hitting 380. Kyle Becker's hitting 378, both with 15+ doubles as well. So a lot of power on those offenses, hitting 335 as a team as well. And on the pitching side, again, Corbin Talley, 11-0, 2.42 ERA, 4 complete games, 3 shutouts, 74 in the 3rd innings, 99 strikeouts. He'll be on. If he's on, that'll be tough to beat. You got Wade Duncan in the back end, 9 saves with a 2.70 ERA over 23 appearances. Expect him to throw some big innings as well in this bullpen for the Nighthawks. That'll be the Pod 1 of the West Region side, and we'll go to Pod 2 with Point Loma, Cal Poly Pomona, and Cal State San Bernardino. And how about that 3-6 matchup? Man, what a thrilling CCAA championship game it was. San Bernardino scored 2 right off the bat. Then Pomona had 6 runs in the first inning, but Cal State San Bernardino came all the way back and ended up winning the CCAA tournament championship. That was their only way to get in the tournament if they won the tournament, and they sure did. So they're in the 6th seed under Mike Nato, trying to replicate what they did in 2023, which has made the D2 World Series. So they are 27, 25, 15, and 16 in the CCAA, and they got some guys. So it starts with Garrett Bartow, who's hitting .418 with an OPS over 1,300, 18 home runs. And as he's a first-team all CCAA member. And then Dom Dominguez, another guy to highlight, hitting .358, 17 home runs. And you got Tyson Pettengill, who's got 10 home runs and 9 doubles. Eddie Alfaro's got hitting .409 with 19 doubles. And then on the pitching side, Ace Devin Hernandez, 5-3 with a 5.79 ERA. He threw nearly a complete game on Wednesday and then closed it out Saturday. And then obviously Kaylor Saunders, the transfer from Northwest Nazarene, is a big piece of this rotation. 8-3, 4.44 ERA, 7 complete games for the right-hander, 75 innings. So there's going to be a lot of reliance on that rotation. Jesse Alfaro will come out of the bullpen as well. 15 appearances, 2 saves, 22 and 2/3 innings. They'll take on Cal Poly Pomona, which you have guys like Julian Angulo, who's hitting .333 with 43 driven in. Jack Sanders is your big power bat, .319, 13 doubles, 14 home runs, 55 driven in, 19 and 21 stolen base. So he can do it all offensively on the pitching side. Anthony Vasquez, great starter, 2 complete games, 3-1 record, 3.43 ERA. Andrew Campbell is 11-3 with a 3.52 ERA. And out of the bullpen, you got guys like Sean Surianiel, who's got 3 saves and over 12 appearances. Gio Hernandez, who's 2-2 with 14 appearances, 28 innings, 2 saves, and Gavin Smith, who has 2 saves as well. We have the 3-6 matchup. Again, 2 teams are familiar with it because they faced off against each other in the CCAA championship game. As we go to our final and 2 seed, the loser of that first game will await Point Loma, who won their second Pac West tournament title in 3 years. They're the only team to win multiple Pac West tournament titles, mainly because it's only been around since, I believe, 2023. But under head coach Justin James, their 5th consecutive tournament appearance, and they're looking to – it's an even year, and, well, there's a good chance they might make it to Cary, North Carolina. They were the national runner-up in 2022, and they made the World Series in 2024. So idea is looking that way for them to get in, as they went 44-10 and 37-7 in the Pac West. Again, regular season and tournament champions. As we'll talk about we'll stay on the pitcher side and talk about the pitcher of the year in Derek Silva. Derek Silva, the pitcher of the year in the Pac West, and well, he had a 2.93 ERA and a 9-1 record over 76 and 2/3 innings, 88 strikeouts as well. And then another guy you want to talk about is Devin Norton, who's also 9-1, but he has a 2.30 ERA over 62 and 2/3 innings. Yeah, other guys like Vaughn Necker and Glenn Huggins, who are combined 15-3 record, both starters over 60+ innings with an ERA under 4.3 as well. So expect a lot there. Then you got 2-way player Hank Smith. We'll talk out of the bullpen. He's got 7 saves with a 2-run record and a 4.50 ERA. And then offensively, he's hitting .314 with 11 doubles, 9 home runs, and 51 driven in. Tristan Moore is the big offensive bat for this squad. 382 average, 1236 OPS, 21 doubles, 16 home runs, 68 driven in. And Josiah Rodriguez is the table setter for this offense, hitting .428 with 13 doubles and 6 home runs. So West Region 6 teams in that 3-team pod, and we'll break down the game times for this. As San Marcos and Northwest Nazarene will play Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and the loser of that game will play Cal State Monterey Bay at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Then in the Point Loma side, 11 a.m. Pacific time, you got Cal State San Bernardino, Cal Poly Pomona, and then 2 p.m. Pacific time, you got Point Loma versus the loser, game 1. Rest of the bracket to be determined. Be sure to check out our regional hub to be able to see all of that and what goes down there. But West region, 6 teams vying for their way to carry North Carolina, and that wraps up the 2026 D2 Baseball Regional Preview. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. We'd like to give a big thank you to all of our regional tier Patreon members. We couldn't make it to the 9th inning without the support of all of you. You're the real MVPs, hitting a home run for the team every single time. Thank you.